Hi everyone and welcome back to Caught in the Web. I'm joined by none other than Christopher, Taylor,
Hello.
And a new voice, Mr. Coot, or Dom, or Coot, or whatever the hell you want to be called as. But yeah, we haven't got Dalek today because of reasons unknown, so we'll just get going, shall we? So how are you all doing today?
I'm doing excellent.
That's good.
I'm alright.
You're all right?
Doing good.
And Chris is doing good. Okay, I guess we'll start like we normally do and just pick a random tab and get going. So the first one on the tab is, let's move this Skype out of the way, Disney Plus hits hard on VPN services. I think this was coming. I think they got like a week or so to get used to people accessing it from all over the world and different countries to see different libraries, but I think they're just getting with the times of other streamers, really. It was pretty inevitable.
I'm not entirely clued up on this one, if you will. So, is this being used in scenarios where, are people using VPNs to access it from a country in which they couldn't usually access Disney Plus, or is there another reason for it? Like, is this available worldwide, or is it only in certain countries?
Yeah, I think it's only in certain countries, and it's kind of just being accessed. It's like a licensing thing, so they obviously don't have rights to sell or stream their content in those countries, and people in those countries are using VPNs to pretend they're in those countries that they can stream so that they can use it. So yeah, I mean, this is pretty uniform across all the streaming sites, be it your Netflixes, your HBO Go's. BBC is what springs to mind. They're pretty brutal on VPNs, even to the point where they recognise the IP patterns of the most common VPN providers and actually ban those patterns of what I think it's called. What's it called? It's called. I forget the name, but basically you can say I want every IP within
this range,
and in this particular format, because they normally buy them in bulk, these VPN services. So it's I think this shouldn't be surprising, but it's kind of the only surprising element I can see here is that it is done so quick.
Yeah, I mean there are still VPN services that are still working with it, but whether or not that's going to continue,
you're
very long.
Yeah, you'll always, with like VPNs and stuff, you'll always have the ability to connect at some point, because they'll buy new IP addresses and someone will be able to get access and they'll be able to use it. But the moment that they know that it's coming from somewhere else at certain times, they'll just ban them. So it's kind of like a whack-a-mole thing when it comes to IPs.
Pulling weeds as such.
Yeah, like I'll admit it, I've used VPNs to get to content. Like I think I did it a couple of years ago for Hulu, or I was like watching Family Guy on Hulu. And then, they just ban that one, move on to the next one, ban that one, move on to the next. But VPNs are getting so ridiculously cheap now as well. It's kind of, you can see why people are trying to use them so they can have worldwide content as well. So I'm not sure how that works in terms of paying for it, because how would you do that if you're in a country where it didn't support it, and how would you pay for it? That's why I don't know.
Exactly. I mean, someone actually tried to watch together. Well, basically, you can pretty much stream any website on there. And someone tried to stream something from Disney Plus on there the other night, and they invited me to watch it. And as soon as I tried, it didn't matter that they were streaming it. It still tried to make me log in and subscribe and everything, and it just wouldn't let me pass that first step. So, they have it locked down pretty tight in all regards, really. And so, yeah, you're right in saying that what's going on with the VPNs isn't really surprising. Like, I suppose, yeah, it was to be expected.
Do you think they'll go down like, I think there was conversation of Netflix going down the you can't use it with multiple people route, but whether or not that's actually going to materialize, that's yet to be seen. But do you think they're going to be like very restrictive on who's using it, or do you think the VPN restrictions are as far as they're going to go?
No, I can see them making it sort of restrictive to who's using it. But I can't see Netflix doing that personally. But Disney Plus, like, I know it's been around a while realistically, but in terms of how popular it is now, yeah. I mean, it is Disney we're talking about, and they obviously own some of the biggest movie series in the world, probably the biggest. So yeah, I can definitely see that being a thing in the future where it will be one person per account kind of thing.
Yeah. What are your thoughts, Coop?
Well, I don't know. I mean, when I think of VPNs, I mainly think about the privacy that they provide. But in this regard, I kind of get why they do that.
Yeah, and I suppose it's it's a although they're one of the biggest companies, it's still like a private company looking to make a profit. So it's sort of makes sense to close the gates where they can.
The mouse needs the cheddar.
Yeah, the mouse does definitely need the cheddar for sure, and they get it, plenty of it.
Pretty much all of it.
Pretty much all of it, yeah, because multiple networks. You'd like to think, like, I don't know if there's any streaming services out there that almost say now we'll allow VPNs because if people want to watch our content, then so be it. And I understand there's licensing. I understand that because someone's got to pay for it, right? You can't just say, oh, I want this product, whatever TV show, to be available worldwide because someone's got to pay. Is what I'm saying. But I wonder if there's going to be a point where a streaming platform will go, hey, people want to watch our stuff and they have an account to watch it.
No, never in a million years. No, it's a conflict of interest,
isn't it? Yeah,
complete conflict of interest because these licenses that they buy for this stuff, they probably say, yeah, look, you need to crack down on this because this isn't. You don't have a license to stream this in, say, I don't know, the UK. So yeah, it's a complete conflict of interest. They wouldn't do it. They come under fire from pretty much everyone they've got a license from, I imagine. I mean, if it's Disney and they own all of the stuff, fine. And if it's Netflix originals, fine. I'm pretty sure all the Netflix movies and TV shows are available worldwide anyway. But in terms of yeah, when you look at it like that, I suppose it could be a thing. Like, if it's owned by them, then maybe. But I suppose at that point it's at their discretion, and realistically, are they going to go through the extra effort to worry about that when they won't allow VPNs for other stuff? It just seems a bit. It sounds very messy.
Yeah, and I mean, as I said before, I always think back to like iPlayer and things for the main reasons why VPN's probably a pretty good idea, just because it's BBC and they get their money from not only the license payers but also from the British public. So
data collection.
Oh mate, going on to iPlayer and trying to look at a show, and it's like, have you got your TV license details? Like, no, I haven't. I haven't had a TV license for about a decade, mate. So, see in a bit. But yeah, so I mean,
which is purely a joke because you wouldn't want to admit that on a podcast, right?
Hey, I'm not the bill payer, so for all I know, I'm pretty sure they have one. Don't worry.
Good save. I like it.
Yeah.
Anyone here use or know of people that use Disney Plus?
Yes.
Yeah. Are they finding it all right?
Yeah, no complaints so far. I've been told a lot about how the newer stuff that's been put on there. Like, there's a live action movie that's just came out. Mm-hmm. Of one of the old classics. Apparently that moved them to tears and all of that. Like, I don't do much for all of that kind of thing, but like, I can see why. I think it's not live action Lion King, it's something else.
Beauty and the Beast.
No, that wouldn't move me to tears, mate. I'm talking something that's actually like emotional.
Did you say you got moved to tears? I thought you said someone else got moved.
No, it was someone else got moved to tears. But like, seriously, who gets moved to tears by Beauty and the Beast? Like, let's be honest. I can't remember what one it was, but yeah, I've heard nothing but good things about it. But the people I've heard good things about it from are just all American. So they are like, I suppose, the central place for Disney, aren't they? So I don't really have much outside input other than that.
I suppose there's more to an audience than just the American side, I guess, because I don't know when and if it's going to be available. Hold on a second, where are we? I'm just seeing if it's going to be available eventually in most places, but it doesn't look like it. But yeah, I'm just reading here that it's not just a singular VPN provider that they're banning. They're banning like all the main ones, including but not limited to NordVPN, PureVPN, Surfshark, and probably others like, what's the other one called? Private Internet Access, Tunnel Bear, and a few other. ExpressVPN is what this website Screen Binge, they tested it with, and surprisingly it's working, but only on iOS and Android. So again, it's very much like, oh, Disney find out that it's allowed on certain addresses, get them banned, and then they buy more, and it's just cat and mouse. And I don't think it always will be. They'll just get better at recognizing them.
Well, I suppose it's a bit like detecting hacks in like video games and stuff. Like, you can't truly stomp it out for good. All you can do is just update your anti-cheat after each variation of the hack gets released. So it is just pure cat and mouse, but they're cracking down on it pretty hard. Like like you said, it's not so much the fact that they're doing it that's a surprise; it's how quick it's been. That's the surprising. Like, they're on the ball with this one.
Yeah, and it won't surprise me as well if they use the info of where. I know obviously VPNs don't collect that info. That's one thing, but they'll probably have records of how many attempts to watch via VPN are there. So they might be like, okay, there's potential money we could be making here, and then use that info to then buy or negotiate or whatever they do at Disney to get licenses sorted for that specific, maybe not region because they won't know that info, but kind of stir them on to say, okay, we need it in more locations. Where do we go? I just thought of that now. I mean, it kind of makes sense to me. I don't know if you agree or not, but.
On that same note, actually, have you seen, if you want to see some of the responses, if you scroll right to the bottom of this article, there's actually comments from people saying their thoughts on the whole VPN issue. Yeah, here you go. Someone did...
Go on.
Go ahead. No, it's fine.
That's right, I hijacked you then, go ahead.
It's all right. So, I mean, there's a couple of good points in here. If you look at Josh's comment, the third one down, it says, if they are against people using a VPN, that shows you're in a different country. I can understand taking a stand on that as a business. But if it's in the same country of origin you signed up on the service with, then they are asking people to be less secure to use their service. It's a very black and white area.
That's actually a good point, though. I mean,
it is.
But then my argument to that would be the moment that you, let's say Disney say, all right, we want to allow people to use VPNs on specific accounts. So let's marry up the account to the VPN IP. The moment you do that, you've also, through matching of behavior and accounts, you've also decreased the security there, because VPNs are supposed to be anonymous, and you've just tied it to an email and a Disney account. So it kind of, you can't win with that.
You can't win. And the thing is, like, oh dear, did I just go completely blank on what I was about to say? I think I did.
That's right. Well, I'll just read the response to that. Someone responded to that saying, hey Josh, I totally agree with you that even there's no need to use a VPN to access Disney Plus in those countries where the service is officially available. Use of VPN is still helpful to keep your data secure and safe. Sorry. Yeah, I'm tired, I'm sorry. And safe from mass surveillance and dark online entities. Yeah, I don't necessarily agree with that. I think you can't win if, let's say, they don't allow you to use VPNs. Yes, you might not be able to be as secure, but it's a Disney Plus account, you know? Worst case scenario, you don't get to watch Lion King in 4K. I mean, come on.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, like, you have already given them all of your information. You've already given them your name, your email address, your bank account information even. Like, your privacy's more or less out the window by that point. Like, your VPN's not really going to protect you from much else when it comes to their services. Like, they already have everything they could want as such. I mean, there is a good point I saw further down. I'm gonna paraphrase it and expand on it a little bit. Someone said something about piracy, and my expansion on it is, if people are so up in arms about this, like, and they use VPNs often, what's stopping them from going online and just downloading all of the stuff they want to watch, without subscribing? They're doing it illegally, like torrenting it or whatever. Like, I mean, I don't think Disney's going to suffer from like a handful of people torrenting their stuff. Like, they make enough money from all the other subscribers and, every other franchise that they own. But that is a good point. Like, by doing this, they are almost encouraging some people to go and do that instead of subscribing to their service. But, what can you do?
True, but I think you're also underestimating the amount of people that are pretty annoyed at how many streaming services there are available worldwide now, and that they have to go to different places to get different streams of content. And you will probably almost definitely see a big rise in torrenting. Yeah, I think that's pretty inevitable, just because it's kind of ridiculous about, you got your Netflix. I know I've touched on this before, but you got your Netflix, your Hulu, your HBO, your DirecTV, your Disney Plus.
Paying for a bunch of different services.
That's the thing, and it's going to happen with pretty much all of the virtual services. I reckon it's happening with games, because look, one of the unique selling points of being on PC was that basically all the games you could play were pretty much centralized, right? Like, there wasn't any exclusiveness, if you will. Like, you didn't have to jump between platforms to get the game you want.
That's right.
But now you don't have Steam anymore. Now you have the Epic Store, and you have Origin and Uplay, and then name whatever else. So you now have like that exclusiveness coming onto one platform, and you have to go sign up to all of these different services, if you will, just to get one thing. And it's like I don't want to jump between services personally. Like, I prefer to stick with Steam. I'm not going to start subscribing to stuff on the Epic Store and then going over to Origin and then back to Uplay. It's just hassle. And with the streaming services as well, it is ridiculous. Like, there's so many now, and a lot of them are at least $7.99 to $10 a month, if not more. I know Netflix went up recently, didn't it? But unless someone has a lot of money, like, they're not going to be subscribing to all of them, or maybe they are if they're bad with money. One of the two.
Yeah, I mean, it's similar to the music model, where you're not actually ever going to own this, even if you pour hundreds of dollars over so many years into Disney Pluses and all that stuff. So yeah, it's kind of, movies are a service now rather than a product. So movies and TV shows, and is that just what we have to get used to, or do you think this is going to backfire at some point?
I'll let someone else take that if they like, because I've had a lot of screen time.
What do you think, Coot?
I'm not really sure.
Okay. How about you, Chris?
Yeah, it's just the sort of thing you got to look forward to, isn't it? Disney don't want to have all their stuff on Netflix, because Disney can make more money having it on Disney Plus. Even with the increase in piracy, they'll make more money from it, because they're getting pretty much the whole, however much it is a month that they get, instead of the odd license fee they used to get from Netflix. As they're playing on a level here. Disney have an acceptable amount of piracy they're willing to let happen, and they know that the piracy level's never going to get high enough that it's really going to affect the margins.
Do we know that for sure, though? Because they can tackle VPNs, and they can tackle VPNs. Yeah, that's my point. Like, can they really beat privacy? Not privacy, sorry. Like illegal piracy. I mean,
Disney probably don't care about the piracy from the VPN issue.
Yet, they don't care yet.
No, they won't care at all, because the people using VPN to access Disney Plus, as it says in the article, are people who can't even buy Disney Plus. Disney don't care that people who can't even give them their money because they don't allow them are pirating their content. They'll only ever care about that when they start, having Disney Plus in the region people are now able to buy from. We can't get Disney Plus in the UK. So if we pirate a Disney Plus product, Disney won't care, because they've never allowed us to give them our money anyway. So it's a non-issue for Disney.
Fair enough.
And I don't think many media companies actually care as much about piracy as people in the news actually makes out to be. Because
no, they.
I just remember reading a story about the about Game of Thrones, and how the piracy in that and the levels of piracy almost was useful to know, and it allowed basically the way they thought of it is at least people are watching it, regardless if they're not paying for it, because if someone's gonna watch it, hold on, let me rephrase this. Is somebody watching it for free better than somebody not watching it at all? They would probably argue yes, because it's exposure to the brand that is. So, yeah, they might not be paying for the service, but they'll buy that Game of Thrones T-shirt or they'll buy that Game of Thrones mug. I think
that is true. And not only that, they have word of mouth as well. So these people that watch it for free will go around and go on Twitter and say, "Wow, that episode of Game of Thrones was incredible." And then obviously, if they've got a few followers, those followers are then going to look into it potentially. Yeah. So in a way, companies do profit from things like that. Like, it's the only way piracy would ever be a danger to them is if, like, all of their paying customers said, "You know what? If we can do it for free, let's go do it."
Yeah.
You know, that would probably hurt them. But realistically, how many of their paying customers are actually going to have that sort of thinking pattern?
Exactly. And, you know, I say it before and I say it again. If something's convenient enough, people will pay for it.
Yeah.
You know? That's just a fact. And I always quote the same thing, how Spotify and the others and Apple Music pretty much killed music piracy, unless I'm wrong completely, which I don't think I am. I mean...
No, music piracy just doesn't exist no more, does it?
No.
You know, like... Convenience does kill piracy. This is how it works. You know, it's how, like, Steam's pretty much killed video game piracy. You know... it's how, like, piracy for TV shows and all, and films went down when Netflix first came about. And it's only now with the splitting of streaming services has piracy seen a rise again.
Yep.
You know, but, like, if you go back 2-3 years ago, piracy was at the lowest it's ever been.
So, yeah, well, the convenience factor is there, and yeah, it's you're right. Like, I think people who were, you know, when Netflix first became a big thing, people who were maybe very against, people who were maybe very heavy on piracy, let's say, who perhaps, you know, you torrented all of their movies and TV shows. I would argue that a big chunk of those people did subscribe to Netflix because they don't have to sit through the hassle of torrenting all that shit, and then they can just go on Netflix and get thousands of movies at the click of a finger, you know? So, yeah, and in its own way, that itself is quite scary. The fact that that just having convenience can shut down like virtually shut down an entire segment of let's say the internet, even music piracy for one. Like, that is a good point. Like, I haven't heard anyone in the past 15 years say, "Oh yeah, I downloaded that new album yesterday. Oh, I managed to get a free download." It's like, no, everyone talks about Apple Music and Spotify, and people don't argue. Like, people don't complain about Spotify or Apple Music prices. They just do it because they think, "Oh yeah, it's great." Like, I think Spotify is great, but
yeah, I think it's a lot about convenience. If, let's say, streaming services took on a model similar to Steam, like pay separately for which shows you want to watch, then yeah, I'd reckon they'd have a lot more people paying them instead of, you know, a lot of them resorting to piracy.
But, you know, if you think of it from a purely hypothetical thing, let's say every single movie company and TV show production house came together and was like, okay, $40 a month, you can have everything. Do you think that will basically kill it?
That's basically what we had with TV, though, wasn't it? With, like, Sky and other, like, cable services.
To be fair, yeah.
And it just comes to the point where it's not just the convenience; it's also convenience plus price tag, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
You know, is it worth the time for me to spend 15 to 20 minutes every time I want to watch something to go, like, on piracy website, look it up, you know, download it? You obviously have the risks involved. You know, you might download a virus or whatnot. You know, is it worth that time? Or is it just easier to pay the $7.99 a month for Netflix and just watch stuff exclusively of there?
Yeah, and I bet they look at their pricing model with, like, a fine tooth comb and a magnifying glass combined, but just they probably see like a percentage of people who drop off when you raise it by 50 cents or a dollar and and they're probably well aware of what they need to do in order to make the maximum money but keep the amount of people. There's probably a whole department dedicated to that.
Oh yeah, they spend sort of millions on that sort of, like, market research, you know, to make sure they can maximise the profit they gain.
That's right. And another thing to keep in mind, you said something about cable, like cable TV or subscription TV services, if you will. In this country, touch wood, it's not too bad in terms of pricing. Like, don't get me wrong, it's not great, but you can, the package deals aren't horrific. But if you go over to America, like, cable TV is expensive. Like, it is very, very expensive to actually get that. So it's in a country like America where, like, your standard TV providers, I guess, are that high, and Netflix and Hulu and Disney Plus are that low. Like, you've got a market that you can appeal to, and like, it doesn't matter that they're paying for it. The fact is they're paying less than they normally would as well. So in some ways there's a trade-off, and it's a positive one for the consumers. But yeah, I think it really depends on where you are in the world. But like, even in the UK, where TV isn't extremely expensive, but we still millions of us are subscribed to Netflix and Hulu and whatever else. So it's quite interesting. But like you said, the market research for them is critical for their business model, and so far it looks like they're doing a pretty good job of it.
That's for damn sure. Okay, do you think we should move on to the next topic?
Yeah, I'm happy to move on.
Yeah.
Okay, speaking of streaming platforms and everything of the sort, or whatever the word is, we're going to do this one. Why is Netflix buying cinemas? So I think, to put a long story short, they're basically using various cinema houses and things in New York, by the look of it as well. And when they release a movie, they will then have a screening at the cinema first, and then have a delayed release on the platform. To make more of an event out of it, rather than just Netflix has 4 more movies for you to watch. Do you think this is a good thing?
Or the fact that they're buying cinemas?
Yeah, to use as like a screening thing, so to make it more of a bringing the real world into the TV, just so you can actually go to the premiere of insert movie they're releasing here before it's released on Netflix, just to make more of a splash, I guess, is their goal.
I think it really depends on how they play it. Like, sure, I can go to the cinema and do it, but am I going to have to? Yeah, is there going to be some sort of a subscription model for me to enable me to do this? Like, am I going to have some sort of membership just to see things like this? I mean, I think. Sorry, just before you make your point, there was a big thing with Bird Box when that first came out. If you remember, they had like their big red carpet event, I think, and like they were nominated for an Oscar. I swear they were nominated for something, and then a lot of these big movie producers came forward and said, hang on a minute, this is a Netflix movie. To qualify for this, you need to have blah, 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 blah. And Bird Box did qualify. It's just a lot of people didn't know that. So I imagine it's something to do with that as well. Like, their Netflix movies can now qualify as like, Oscar winners and so on and so forth. Because now they can do the whole public release, and they can sell so many things in theaters and etc. etc. So it really benefits them a lot in the long run. It's not just for our convenience, but it's so their movies can actually do big things now. Because some of their Netflix movies are excellent. Like, and have you seen The Irishman yet? I'm not sure if that. Is that a Netflix movie?
Yeah, it is.
It is.
Yeah.
It's the Martin Scorsese one they're on about.
Yeah, I'm about 3/4 of the way through, so no spoilers, please.
No spoilers. I'm only halfway through. Like, after I started watching, I realised it was 3.5 hours long. But so that's my view on it. Like, I think this benefits. It's great for us, but it's even greater for them for that reason.
I think it should be pointed out that they've bought one cinema and they don't plan to buy any more.
Well, would they need to?
I think the article is suggesting that this might become a pattern, not that they have. It's just saying...
It says in the article they've bought one cinema and they have no plans to buy any more.
It also has a speculative piece at the top saying it could be the start of a big screen revolution, so I just thought it might be a good conversation piece, that was all. But hey, feel free to shoot it down right out of the sky if you want, Chris. That's fine.
There's a little bit of representation going on now. We have Matthias Frey, I apologise if I say the first name wrong, Professor of Film, Media and Culture at the University of Kent, representing, that's me. Netflix could be testing the waters to indeed buy up a cinema chain to try and become a really big player. He says he thinks that's less probable, but it is possible, and I do agree with that. Like, they're not going to go and buy 100 cinemas straight off the bat, because this could be a complete flop. But if it's not, that's where they have room for expansion. Because any big company, they look at ways to expand and ways to sort of reach other, bigger target audience. So that could be the purpose of this, just seeing how it's received. And if it goes to shit, then they haven't really lost that much. They sell the cinema they've bought and move on. It's a lot easier to sell one cinema rather than 100. Let's just say that.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm just looking here. It looks like there was a 72-day exclusive run before Netflix released The Irishman. So that feels like a lot. I don't know.
That's quite the wait.
There was what, sorry?
It said Martin Scorsese insisted on a typical 72-day exclusive run before The Irishman was released.
Wow.
But Netflix said no, and they got given 26 days.
But yeah, that's what I mean, though. Like that, you see, the cinemas have this Netflix exclusive now. It's now screening, and that means they actually qualify for certain awards and nominations. So that's why this new Irishman movie is. That's why it's been said that it's a Oscar contender, because it qualifies to receive an Oscar now.
Is that really a thing? Do you have to have a?
Yes, yeah. Like there are certain awards for movies that if you don't meet a certain criteria, it can't be nominated. And part of that is like a big screen event and like not a showcase, almost like a red carpet event. Like there are boxes that need to be checked. That's why Bird Box came under such heavy fire, because a lot of people didn't know that Bird Box did qualify. I hope I don't get fact checked on that, but I do remember seeing something about that, and that there was a lot of producers that are up in arms about it, saying that there was an argument that Netflix were basically just sort of stealing the thunder from everyone with a Netflix movie. And yeah, it was quite interesting actually. Like it got heated, but Netflix were obviously very reasonable as much as they can be, and they said, "Yeah, no, look, this does qualify, so scoot on." But
yeah, I suppose as the bit that I didn't really read fully just then, and Chris fact checked me on the 26-day, 72-day thing. That's almost like a merger of old cinema with new media, because it's kind of like we want to do things this way. And Netflix being like, maybe not, let's do it this way. So it's...
Basically, from reading the article, Martin Scorsese basically said to Netflix, I'm not making a film for you unless it gets a cinema release. So Netflix said, okay, we're going to buy this one cinema in New York and we'll give you a cinema release.
But then, couldn't they then use that same cinema? I know it's purely speculation, but couldn't they use that same cinema to follow that trend and get more content?
They probably will be, because... This is probably a reaction that Netflix got at the end of last year, where quite a few big-time directors came out and said that Netflix isn't the equivalent to the golden era of films because of how it's not being displayed at cinema. Like you had Quentin Tarantino bring it up against Netflix. You had, I think Steven Spielberg did. So this is obviously like Netflix trying to woo over some of the bigger directors. Yeah. To get him to make some Netflix exclusives, but saying, "Oh, well, there will be a cinema release now." Yeah. This is something we plan to do. And
coming back to what I said about the Oscars, I've just fact-checked myself. Actually, if I'm looking further down the article, in order to qualify for the Oscars, Netflix only needs to show their films in New York and Los Angeles in one single screen. The rules are that it has to open theatrically for 1 week in New York and LA. Newman says. So there you go. It does need to have screen releases in New York and LA to qualify for the Oscars. So that is a big reason. I imagine that's a big reason why they've done it, because it's Martin Scorsese, for fuck's sake. Like he's not going to mess around. He wants an Oscar. He wants another one. That's probably why he wanted it. Wanted a 2-month exclusive screening. But I think 2 months is a bit unreasonable. Like that isn't. But yeah, like that's what I mean. That is my point right there. Like, they are opening the doors to much bigger opportunities, so to speak.
Is it a much bigger opportunity though? Because
if a Netflix movie won an Oscar, hell yeah.
It kind of seems like they're like bowing down to how it always has been done, rather than being like, "Nah, this is how we're actually going to do it." You almost want Netflix to be like, "Nah, screw you. We want to do it streaming. If you want to play, then join our rules." That's kind of what I'm thinking. Like it's like, oh, they really wants it. Can we make it happen? I mean, we shouldn't, but it is him. It kind of feels a bit pandering. Maybe it's a good thing because
you get to be pandered to when you're Martin Scorsese, though.
True, yes. But regardless of who it is, that shows that like if you make enough fuss, Netflix will buy a cinema and show you a movie. You know, it's not really we're the entertainment bastion that they think they are. Let's put it this way. Disney won't be doing that.
Well, time will tell, I suppose.
And I might eat my words, and I'm happy to be quoted at 11.
The thing is, Disney doesn't need to do that because like they can do it themselves. Like they can win Oscars on their own if they want. Like they pretty much own like half of like that media, if you will. They own like the Avengers and Star Wars and like everything. They don't need to worry about pandering to directors. Like they can just do it. Like they don't have to ask for someone's permission or like be locked in some sort of contract. They can just say, you know what, we're going to do this, and that's it.
Yeah, if Disney wanted to make a Martin Scorsese film, they could probably make a Martin Scorsese film.
Disney would just do it and then ask him afterwards once they're making it.
There's plenty of problems surrounding Disney. There's even a whole giant Wikipedia article about the criticism on the company.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty well documented that they're maybe not the most ethical company in the world, but, people still watch the movies and they make all the money, so people are still going to be fans of them.
Exactly.
Just reading here. If there was a I'm just thinking how that would work with their TV shows, because obviously you've got House of Cards, which springs to mind. Did that win any awards that anyone here remembers?
Yeah, it won loads of the Emmys. It won loads of Emmys when it first came out.
And did that have
the first few seasons?
Did that have the same
loads of Netflix? No, because obviously it's different. Loads of Netflix shows that have won awards. Like they've won loads of awards for The Crown.
Yeah, of course.
They have won loads of TV awards. It's obviously there probably is a difference with the Oscars. They didn't have to buy a cinema to win the Oscars, though. Like you can rent a cinema for a week, can't you, to do it? Like this cinema was clearly bought just purely to pander to Martin Scorsese, because they wanted a Martin Scorsese film. Yeah, he's one of the best directors of the last few decades. Like,
I suppose it also generates headlines as well. It's like, oh wow, Netflix are doing something out of the blue and kind of making a splash, for lack of a better term. So I can sort of see why they've done it, and also at the same time, it feels like they're supposed to be a digital media company, and it's kind of gone back on their foundations a bit. That's all.
Yeah, this is the sort of problem they've been working against for like the last few years. Is when they first started out, Netflix just had a massive catalogue, and that's how they got all their subscribers. And then you've started to get things like Hulu, HBO, Disney Plus, and they've started to take away their catalogue. They can no longer make like Marvel TV shows and whatnot. So Netflix has basically had to start making these originals purely to fight that. Thinking, if we have loads of really good originals, then people are going to stay subscribed to Netflix and won't move to whichever streaming company has the biggest catalogue.
Yeah, the consumer will win though, which is great. So bring it on.
Another thing with this whole movie theatre gig that they're doing, I'm not sure if you saw this, but just a week before they bought that theatre, the US Department of Justice dismantled the Paramount decree, which stops movie studios from monopolising the distribution of their films and screening them in only cinemas that they own. So there is that is on the article, but there is a good point. With that, Netflix could open up Netflix branded cinemas. So like it's not detrimental, but it certainly throws like a new twist into the whole situation, because like it's true they can't really monopolize anymore, but they can just open up their own chain of cinemas if they really wanted to. If it works, that's the key right there. Because there are obviously still people that are old school, right? Like there's still an audience they have that maybe isn't subscribed to Netflix. You've got like, careful with my wording here, but you've got the older generations, if you will, that might not be so inclined for things like that, and they still go. There's still a lot of people I know that prefer to go to cinemas. It's just a better experience for some. So could they reach like that quite large number of people by doing something like that, and would it be profitable?
Maybe.
I think there's some films are just better to watch in the cinema, aren't they?
Yes.
You know, some films just have a better cinema, like cinematic, if you will.
Well, I can tell you right now, I agree. Like, watching an action-packed movie on a big screen is much better than me, like, sat in my room, freezing cold, watching it on my my like 24-inch screen. Yeah, it's definitely a lot better.
You don't want to watch Dunkirk or Interstellar on your phone, do you? I mean, come on. You know, it's just, that's pretty obvious. I mean, can you see a point where pure speculation and dreamland here, but can you see a point in the future that's like, I don't know, you log into your Netflix and you see, watch the new da-da-da-da-da film available at your local Netflix cinema. Click here for discounted tickets because you're already a Netflix subscriber. Can you see something like that happening?
Maybe. I think that would work quite well, to be honest. But at the same time, it could have like quite a negative blowback if someone turns around and says, "Look, I'm already paying $12.99 a month for Netflix. Like, why are you now? I have to pay." For a discounted price, I have to pay another £12 just to go and see a movie that I should be able to stream.
Yeah.
It's like you could have that argument that comes in, and then I'm going to go there. I'm going to have to spend another 20 on popcorn and drinks, and it's like, oh, and look, the nearest Netflix cinema to me is 45 miles away. That's another problem. Like, for this to take off, like they'd need to have a cinema like every other cinema. Like, I have a local Odeon and what's the other one? Cineworld. I have like one of them. I have two. I have one of those, one of each, no more than 15 minutes away from me. But Netflix, if they wanted to enter the market, where are they going to put these cinemas? That they can't just. I mean, I suppose they could put a couple in London, but am I going to go out of my way to journey an hour to London to see a Netflix exclusive on a big screen? No.
It depends. It depends how much you want to see the new installation of B Movie. You know, it's. Are you gonna get the train there? You know.
Oh, I don't know, man. I don't like big cities, so like it's gonna have to be a good movie to sell me on that.
I also
and
think...
it's like sorry, just to quickly add something else. Like, that's the thing. If you have to travel to see the movie, you have to pay money to travel as well. So am I going to want to spend upwards of 50, 60 quid to see a Netflix exclusive on a big screen? No, not a chance.
I guess alternatively, they could maybe strike a deal with, say, Odeon or Cineworld and have like maybe one screen to have their movies shown.
Yeah,
so
you have like Gold Class, you have like IMAX, then you have Netflix.
I like that, actually. That could work.
But then you're basically, I don't know, it feels like to me in an era of like streaming services that are all doing basically the same sort of thing, the similar sort of pricing structure model depending on the quality. They've got to do something different like this to be like, to stand out and be seen as the worthwhile investment, I guess. It sort of feels like they're doing this as we're Netflix, we do this and we do it well, but we've also got this cool little thing that we're trying. You know, at least join us in this journey and try and get that, and try and use this and see what you think. I think people are more inclined to go with a brand that does that rather than, so we've got Disney, we've got Netflix, we've got I don't know, I suppose it's from a Netflix point of view, they have to do something different. You know, they have to. So all of these companies do. Otherwise, it's just channel 1, channel 2, channel 3.
That is true. Fortune favours the brave, I suppose.
True, but it can go horribly wrong.
It's always a risk. They gotta do it smart.
There's always a risk, but can you imagine like the size of their business plan if they actually are planning to have this take off? Their business plan is going to be like a fucking tome of information. So, and Netflix has grown a lot since its release. Like, it came out years ago, didn't it? Like, what year was Netflix actually like released? Was it like 2004, 2005?
1998, I think.
Bloody hell! All right then. So there you go. Like, since then, look how much Netflix has grown. Like, do they have a similar sort of business model in mind for actually going back to cinemas? Because like, they could play it to their advantage in quite a few ways. Like, there are a lot of people that complain. Like, we were just a little while ago complaining about how many streaming services there are. Like, could they actually, honeypot us a bit and appeal to the people who don't like the fact that it's all online and all streaming services now? Like we've already said, we can go back and forth, but it can go a lot of different ways.
I can sort of see that, like a screening house type thing, like in your nearest city, or whatever it is. That you can go there, and maybe you don't want to have like a subscription model. You just want to jump in, have a watch of whatever it is, and go. I can sort of see how that would work, and it would also help, you know, your traditional types like your Scorseses and your Tarantinos and stuff, like a hybrid streaming / cinema experience rather than the whole hog either way.
Yeah, because I mean, if you look at what what Cineworld and Odeon do, they themselves have a subscription model. Like, you can pay $15 monthly, and then you can watch all of their movies. You can go to the cinema and watch all their movies for free. You get 10% off of food and drinks, which in cinema prices, that's not really much. Let's not lie, but even so, you get to see all of these movies just for $15 a month, assuming you're someone who likes to go out to the cinema and has all that free time. So, like, if Netflix were to take a similar sort of path, like, it might, what's the difference between that and subscribing to Cineworld as such? So it really depends on how they play their cards, because the only problem is now you do have the subscription models where you can get every single movie that comes out, give or take, and you can watch it for $15 a month at the big screen. So it's going to be, a lot of it's going to be in their competition as well. I'm pretty sure there's stuff like that in America as well. Don't quote me on that, but I will say that I think in America, like, cinemas, actually big screen cinemas are much more popular in some respects, because when I had an American visitor here, Shannon. She noticed that the cinemas, we actually went to one cinema and we had all the reclining seats, and they're all leather. It was fancy. It was expensive as well. But she said, oh, no, like, every cinema in America is like this. So, like, every cinema has, like, these reclining seats, and it's just like, oh, okay. I did not know that. So I think there's a lot of room for growth. It's just it's a case of how they're going to get their foot in the door in some ways.
Yeah, do you think it will be like Netflix sells their movie to whoever wants to screen it, yada yada, and then it becomes available first on Netflix and then on other platforms? Anything like that, like a hybrid model?
Do you want to repeat that one? You kind of lost me.
All right, so let's say, for example, you've got, you make your Irishman movie.
Yeah.
And then they sell it to anyone, or they show it in whatever cinema you want to pick. That's out, general release, all cinemas, yada yada. But when it comes to being released on, like, DVD or publicly available on X, Y, and Z, becoming Netflix exclusive then, at that stage, rather than from start to finish? Do you think they'll ever do that?
Potentially. I think, if for something like The Irishman, like, for these big directors, if they were to do that, there's going to be people that they would probably even buy a subscription just to watch it if they didn't get to see it when it first got publicly released. Like, there are people who would do that. Like, I know someone who is a movie fanatic, and he loves these directors. That he basically worships these directors, Scorsese being one of them. So, yeah, I think it could work, but it's a very niche corner of the market, I think. Like, that could be risky, in my opinion.
Okay. Just see. About time to move on to the next topic.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to roll with what we got next. Wikipedia founder Jimmy Wales is launching an anti-Facebook, and it's already gained 200,000 users days after launching. Wikipedia are going for it by the look of it. It looks to be more of a data-driven model rather than basically anti-Facebook entirely. So they're basically using the whole Facebook is evil, which we've had as a narrative on the podcast the last to build their own social network called WT Social, and it stands for Wiki Tribune Social, which is more of a news-based social media in compared to what everyone else shares on Facebook, which is for the most time just drivel that we're all addicted to because it's designed to be that way. Yeah. So, what do you guys think about this?
On a humorous note, very quickly, like the good old Jimmy Wales in this article here, he legit looks like he's got a gun pointed at him. He does not look like he's in a good spot right now.
It always looks like he's asking for that personal appeal.
This is going to be like one of those cases where he's found like fucking he accidentally drove his car into a tree. You know, that's probably where this is going. But no, someone else take us away. I don't want to be the person who like starts the whole thing over and over again.
No, I mean, how well can a news-based social media do? I thought the whole point of social media was to be social rather than, hey, look at this article, look at this article, look at this article. I understand there's a social element to it.
I think there's some bit of a problem with it. In a way, they say like it's aimed to, here it says to tackle the clickbait nonsense and fake news. The problem with that is, though, these days there's no telling what is fake news or what isn't. And the fact-checking that they do, like, what kind of sources are they actually using?
Oh, look who it is. I will scroll down a little bit.
Yeah, I know. I noticed that a minute ago.
There he is again. He like follows us around. It's almost like, is that it? But yeah, so I think going on what we said last week with the whole, you mentioned it then, Coot, even though you didn't join us then. The fact-checking side of things. Yeah, there was a news article that said they won't be fact-checking the political posts and using it as like allowing someone to make their own judgments and stuff. I think, is there a better source of peer-reviewed truth than Wikipedia on the internet?
Well, you never know. I mean, the fact is, when you say peer-reviewed, who are the peers? I mean,
exactly. Yeah, true.
There's a lot of problems with Wikipedia.
There's still going to be bias. Bias always seeps in, no matter if it's Wikipedia or Facebook. There's always going to be bias from some people because there's political agendas everywhere.
Yeah, and even if we used an AI to monitor this stuff, there would still be the bias. There'd still be the programmer's bias. So it's impossible to remove a bias. It's completely impossible. But last week we did talk about it. Is them just saying, we just won't moderate this stuff, it's fine. Is that really the right way to go about things? Because not moderating something is a lot different to having a bias on something. Like, even if you have a bias, you can still research, what's real and what's not. Like, if someone had to moderate an article about Trump, and let's say in the article Trump apparently said something extremely racist and hateful, and then this person says, no, he never actually said that, and there's research to prove that, then why is that such a bad thing if they do moderate it? Like, isn't that better than just leaving it and letting people believe that Trump or insert politician here actually said those things, Yeah,
and I find the whole concept of, because it says here, anyone on, was it Wiki Tribune Social, can edit content from other users and add comments or details to the information. That's pretty dangerous as well, if you think about it. That's very dangerous. And we've all heard the stories before when some event happens and someone edits the Wikipedia page of person 123. They do it so subtly, like they change his height from being 5'8" to like 10'2", and just let it fly under the radar. Having an editable content source from real people that you can edit each other's, that's almost asking for people to, hey, look, he tweeted this. No, I didn't. You edited it. No, I didn't. But then as long as I suppose there's enough auditing and like previous, what's it called? Previous versions and changes that have been made, could this work? I mean, it's saying it's a huge incentive for good behavior. I mean, it's also a huge incentive for trolling and abuse, I guess. But
the thing is, like, it could work, but if it works anything like Wikipedia, these changes can still be made before they can be reversed. Like, it could be a good few hours before someone notices. Prime example, when I was in secondary school, I was in my final year, some smart year 10s decided they'd go onto our school's Wikipedia page and they'd change everything. So the science block now became the meth labs. Instead of being based in the UK, we were now based in like central Israel. And like they made fun of the head teacher, and they put drugs and like sex in every possible reference they could, And in the end, like, all 5 of them got like kicked out for a week. So, but that's my point. Like, it took about I don't know, it took about 4 or 5 hours before the school even actually noticed that. So, like, is that going to be a danger with this WT social? Yeah, because that can be seriously damaging depending on what's actually changed and who sees it.
Yeah. But on the other hand, like the part where it says a huge incentive for good behavior, if you say something obnoxious, someone will just delete it. There's also the point that, some people will just use it for their own censorship if they feel
That's what I mean, yeah.
either offended or that kind of thing.
Yeah, and I don't like that.
It's all subjective, man. It could be, just it's censorship to some other people while others think it's moderation.
That's the thing, that what if this becomes just like one of those Facebook groups that's just dominated by someone who's either extremely left-wing or extremely right-wing?
Yeah.
If you say something that they disagree with, oh look, I've deleted it. You're not allowed to have that opinion. This is my board. I don't respect opinions like this.
This is a problem you already get with Wikipedia as well, is you can look at many articles now where Wikipedia has been accused of lots of things, because obviously the moderators are volunteers, and you have moderators for different countries. There was a period of time where, the Armenian genocide was basically disputed on Wikipedia because one of the moderators refused to have any article say it was an actual event that happened.
Wow.
You had the Croatian moderator team for a long time be completely fascist. And, there was no real way to stop it because they're the people that did it. Wikipedia's been accused of biases for a long time. It's one of the best websites to not have bias, but there's also still a lot of bias there because, as we say, there's bias in everything.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Wikipedia is also a culprit of this. Wikipedia even has its own page of list of Wikipedia biases, where they talk about all the things that's happened, or criticism of Wikipedia. You can look it up on their own thing, that are quite open about it. But there's been loads of occasions where Wikipedia have, fell short when it comes to, portraying itself.
Yeah, it's a tough one because, as you said, we keep saying there's bias and everything, but isn't that's kind of just human disagreements as well, right? Like what you believe in and what you don't like. You're almost saying.
Yeah, you never get neutrality really in anything, because even nowadays with newspapers, you get newspapers that are slightly left wing, you get newspapers that are slightly right wing, you get newspapers that are far left wing and far right wing. There's bias in every bit of news source we encounter, because that's just, people are biased.
Because it's everyone's perspective, it's not just...
Yeah.
And it's almost merging of opinion and fact is basically what's been done for ages with, as you said, publications, even the way headlines are. If they're anti something, they're going to be more kind of softer headlines, but about like sarcastic things, and then you're going to have if you're for something, you're going to have this is great, da 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 da. So it's all depends on the perspective of the writer and the editor, which I think could definitely come into play, especially when it says, where are we here? It says, the new platform is centered around news, but its aim is to tackle clickbait nonsense and fake news. Okay. I mean, at the end of the day, if let's say if someone posts something fake and crap on here, you're still going to have a select group of people that are deciding that, and the fact that there's a decision on that is almost, I don't know, you can't win. It's one of those, it's like, in theory, yeah, it sounds great because everyone's going to be reporting the bad stuff or the fakeness and stuff, but there's also going to be the people on the other side that are like, this website, you can basically get a few of us together and edit something and it becomes fact. That's great, let's just use this. So it could be doing more harm than good.
Yeah, and not only that, let's keep in mind as well that this was launched 2 years ago. It was launched in 2017 through a crowdfunding campaign. But this is in the article, but it failed because it wasn't able to sustain its business model. So it has been tried in the past. And, I mean, going back to what you were saying, it is risky. And I think the idea of being silenced by other users and like other people just sort of, let's say you've got 10 people who have one opinion and 2 people that have a different one. Can those 10 users then just sort of silence those other 2 and just completely wipe them off the board? Or is there going to be an option that says, view previous changes or view previous comments or whatever? Like, is that going to be an option, or is something that someone disagrees with, can that just be deleted permanently?
I imagine there probably will be documentation for a bit like Wikipedia. Like, you can look at a Wikipedia article and you can see all the changes made previously, can't you?
Yeah.
I imagine it would probably be something similar to that, if I'm honest.
Like,
I would hope so.
Like, would you think it would say something like, Chris has edited this to say yada yada, and then it will say in parallel, however, Taylor edited it and added these values, so you could almost
like
see
side by side.
Yeah, you could almost see 2 opinions.
That would
yes, I imagine so.
That would prevent a lot of bias in some ways. It's an unbiased view. Like, you've got the argument from both sides, and then if you want, you can fact check it yourself and say, all right, so what is the middle ground here? Like, what's true and what isn't?
Yeah, so I guess the problem is the fact that bias is everywhere. You can't deny that. But the fact is they don't seem to be like open about it. It really just seems like they're they don't point it out. It just seems like I can't speak.
I think I know what you mean. So when like the average person uses Wikipedia, they know that it's not cold hard fact. They know it's
the fact
they know it's from some source that might not be of a reputable one, but it allows the reader to make a more of an informed decision than just what they're told, I guess.
Yeah, I guess what I'm trying to say is the main problem is when someone claims something is a fact, when it is in fact not a fact. It's just an opinion, but they don't make it clear to the reader.
Yeah, and I think they're hoping that the whole self-governance and sort of everyone looking at it and reviewing it constantly will sort of weed that out over time. But what I'm trying to say is I think that at least for a while and certain things, it might actually be used as a weapon against itself.
Well, we pretty much already know that'd be the case, because this is basically going to run off the same system that Reddit runs off, about votes and downvotes.
Yeah.
And anyone who used Reddit and has been on certain subreddits knows that Reddit just becomes a massive echo chamber with everyone having basically the same opinion. Because not having the same opinion just means your voice isn't heard, because you just get downvoted to oblivion.
Downvoted to oblivion, yeah.
Yeah. Like you go on two subreddits that had polarizing views that prove my point perfectly. You go to /r/United Kingdom, it's got a massive left-wing bias. You go to /r/UK politics, it's got a massive right-wing bias. There is no central ground there. Both places have their own different type of politics, and it's just that's how it is because of the users that use them subreddits upvote what they like and downvote what they dislike. And you're right, you're going to get the same thing with Wikipedia, except what you're going to have with Wikipedia is that there isn't going to be this idea of biases and whatnot. Because if you go onto a Wikipedia article now, you think 99% of the time it's correct, don't you? Because Wikipedia is the best out there.
Yeah, because it's all about facts.
Yeah, it's just how it is. We talk about how some stuff on Wikipedia isn't true, but 99.99% of it is. You go to any Wikipedia article and read it, most of it is just a list of facts, Like you read up a random author, it will just be like, oh, they were born this day, they was married to this person, they died this date, here's a list of all the books they wrote. There's no opinions there, it's just all facts. It's only when you get to certain articles it's mainly when you get to articles with political beliefs that you do start to get the biases that appear. And
the problem is when they disguise their opinions as facts.
That's it, and this is one of the things you are going to get of a Wikipedia social network, because it will be weaponized by rather, it's going to tip one way, because it's rather going to become an echo chamber for the left wing or echo chamber for the right wing. It's just how things work.
But is that better than the Facebook model of doing things where they have, maybe they don't have fact checkers for that, but kind of moderation compared to crowd moderation? Which one do you think is better? Well, is there a better one, or is it just two different models and that's just the way it is?
It's just two different models, isn't it? One of them's community based, one of them's based on the whims of Mark Zuckerberg.
See, I would argue that having individual moderators is probably worse, because then you get one person who thinks a certain way, or certain, I don't know, their opinions and their views and their kind of what they're exposed to is different compared to the 25 people that have pressed delete on a post because it offends them. So
yeah. Well, I mean, the individual, if they have the final say, they can impose their bias and not be questioned. That's they can, whatever, if it is just a case of moderators like it is on Facebook, it is exactly that. Like, if they don't like it, they can delete it, whether or not other people agree. And let's also keep in mind that it seems WT Social isn't as profit-focused as Facebook is. And I mean...
And let's not forget they're going to have a different quote-unquote business model. Their business model is largely going to rely on donations, which
yes.
Wikipedia has famously done for ages with those spammy Jimmy Wales things that
Personal
come up.
appeal.
Yeah. So Jimmy Wales is begging for money 24/7, and maybe that's working for them. So why not carry on doing it? It's different than having an incentive from like Facebook and other people have had. That's like we're running ads, we're doing this, we're doing that on content, compared to a wiki one, which is like, okay, we're having donations to hire some moderators, and I think their idea is they make more of a pure stream of news compared to the big conglomerate that is Facebook. I don't know. I sort of be curious, but again, having a news-based social media thing almost defeats the purpose of having a social media in the first place if it's just a bunch of news stories.
Well, yeah,
That's
I mean,
basically what Facebook's became, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's become that, but everyone remembers when you've got when it wasn't just what's Lad Bible showing us today, or what's this happening here, and what's that page that I liked accidentally about 6 years ago trying to sell me now. It's
yeah, but I mean, WT Social, as good as it sounds, in some ways it just sounds like Wikipedia with a few extra strings attached. That's all.
It sounds like a Wikipedia chat room to me.
Yeah, that's so that we'll see how that one goes, I suppose. But yeah, I mean, Wales has acknowledged that it won't be massively profitable.
Yeah,
but it will be sustainable, apparently. Not according to what happened in 2017, but we'll see how that takes off now, I suppose. But I'm glad to see that there isn't so much a question of money in here. Like, if it relies on donations, great, as long as it stays that way and it doesn't turn into like this big, how much money can we make from this? But I think it could be quite decent, and hopefully it becomes quite a centralized place for finding the unbiased point of view on things, or at least finding, I guess, what you agree with, right? But
yeah, it doesn't have the catchiest of names, does it? It's like
WT Social, no, it's a bit of a mouthful.
Have you got what sounds better? Can I add you on Facebook, or can I add you on WT Social? It's just
exactly. No, it doesn't have the same ring, does it?
But yeah, I suppose it's a little bit of a different kind of
even so,
product, but still.
Like, even so, how's that going to go down? Like, in your group chat, you say, "Yo, hit me up with your WT Social ID." Like, it just doesn't. It's not
for all your unbiased news, crowdsourced by people on the internet.
This doesn't even really seem like a competitor to like Facebook, though. Really, does it? It's more of a competitor to Reddit.
Yeah.
If anything.
Currently, sorry, go on.
That's all I was going to say. Is I don't see how this is a competitor to Facebook. It's just a competitor to Reddit, because it's not really a social media. It's a news website, but it's a news compiler website which you get a vote on.
So it's Reddit.
Yeah, it's Reddit basically.
I mean, currently
Jimmy Wales has done it again. He's managed to rip off Reddit by disguising it as a. No, I'm kidding.
But instead of being a private company, he's just going to do
please give me
ask
money
for
and
donations.
I'll run it.
It's going to be if everyone who read this donated £10, then our donation campaign will be over in 24 hours.
Yeah, good old Jimmy.
One thing to note is that it won't be a competitor to Facebook, I don't reckon. For one, a reason being that like the amount of profiles on Facebook that are actually just like dead people now, that's still more than the amount of users this thing has.
200,000 users isn't that?
That's a drop in the ocean for Facebook, even in their dead users. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, as dark as that is. Like, Reddit. It might be able to butt heads with Reddit eventually, but Facebook is always going to be like one of the top dogs, I reckon. The only way Facebook would ever have its fall from grace is if, obviously, Cambridge Analytica hit them hard. But the only other way is if like the users actually stood up and said, "You know what? I'm done with this platform. We're off."
That would have been it, though. That was the point to me where Facebook was just too big to fail. If they were to fail, it would have been when Cambridge Analytica and all that news came out.
Yeah, but they didn't. People talked about it for a week, and they said, "Oh yeah, I'm quitting Facebook. I'm never using this platform again." And then a week later, like most of those people were back on it anyway.
This is why I refuse to. Facebook's just too big to fail now. They've hit that point because you're only going to use a social media if all your friends use social media. Everyone uses Facebook. No one's going to jump ship to another one. This is why Google tried to make a social media. Google failed. If a tech giant like Google can't manage to make a success out of social media, how is anyone else going to do it?
I don't think there's ever been a time where a company has said, right, we need to make a viral thing or a thing that's going to go massive and actually done it. It's more like organically grown. So hence why at the beginning with the Facebook's roots is kind of I think they were the not the dating app, but like the rating app or whatever it is. And then that kind of blew up a bit. It got some traction and they modified. So I don't think there's like a formula. It's more of a best guess at what people want. Hence why Wikipedia is going to go for it. Like, as you said, when people are used to go into their browser and instead of typing Facebook, pressing F because they go to it every day and it's just becomes habit. I don't think any amount of money can stop that. It's going to take years of as you said, your friends being on there, your sort of routine of I need to check on what this person's their photo album that they've uploaded or whatever it is to see those family pictures or whatever it is, and then they've got they've checked into here and left a rating and the whole. I do think Facebook is too big to fail, but at the same time, I don't necessarily agree that it is.
I don't think the failure is usually organic though. Like you're correct with the success is usually organic, but like anyone who's like used Bebo or MySpace, like they didn't slowly stop using them. They just stopped using them when Facebook came out.
Yep.
There wasn't like a slow decline where your Bebo or MySpace access went less and less and less. Facebook came out. It was a much better version of them. Everyone switched over to Facebook. And is there ever going to be a time where a new social media comes out that's going to be a much better version of Facebook? I doubt it, because Facebook's just it's just really good how it's laid out.
I don't think it's so much a case of like something being better than Facebook. It's even if something was better than Facebook, it's the case of getting all of these. What is it? Hundreds of millions of users now?
No, it's billions of users.
Billions of users to actually move over. Like you wouldn't be able to do it.
It's just not going to happen.
Like you said about all your friends use social media. You get social media. Like if you're the only person from your group of friends who's willing to go over there, it's quite simple. You're not going to use the new one because none of your friends are there. And like you can't watch the videos of someone baking a cake on this new one because they're already getting all of their audience on Facebook. Like
this is it. If it was going to fail, it would have failed with Cambridge Analytica. It would have been a big event that turned everyone off at the same time, and that would have been it. Never happened. It won't happen.
And it's because Facebook dominates the market. After Cambridge Analytica, had there been a newer platform that was better than Facebook, perhaps maybe people would have moved. Some people would have moved and started a bit of a movement there. But the fact is there wasn't, because everyone else who could have made a social network at that point have already said, you know what, no, we can never compete with Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. Like, there's no point. So, yeah, it was doomed from the start, really. Like, no one made one because they knew that it was a market they could never break into, really, realistically.
So they've been around. So Facebook have been around what? Maybe is it 15 or so years? 15?
Was it 2004?
I'm just looking here. It says this is from. Let's just say 16 years, right? Even though it's probably give or take compared to that number. But do you think they'll be around for another 10 at the position that they are? Yeah.
Oh yeah,
easily. Yeah. Facebook might be a less part of it, but this is the reason why they brought like Snapchat and Instagram and whatnot, because Facebook's prepared for the next thing. Most young people now don't use Facebook like they use Instagram. Facebook know this though. They've prepared for this. This is just the next step on their journey.
10 years is a long time, though.
Yeah, well, I mean, look at all of the things that have held up for more than 10 years, though. Like, even Netflix has, and that's by no means one of the biggest platforms, but that's still a strong competitor. Facebook doesn't really have a competitor anymore. Any competitors they have been long since stomped out because...
Apart from Twitter,
but Twitter's not the same thing.
Twitter's not even really a social media, is it? Like, no one uses Twitter as a social media.
No, Twitter is just that place you share memes and like throw your
hold
shit
on.
around.
Twitter's not social media.
I know it technically
More
is
of a political
social
platform.
I wouldn't call Twitter so. Like, I've never used Twitter to like talk to someone I know. The only time I've ever gone on Twitter is to look at posts made by companies or by individuals. It's basically just a way for celebrities to talk to the plebs.
Yeah, and it's also like a marketing platform for some. Like, I know Facebook is, but Twitter's short and snappy, right? Do they still have like a character limit on their tweets, or did they remove that? Yeah. I know they changed
they
it.
Still have it.
They still have it.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. Like, it's not the same as Facebook. Like, it's nowhere near the same. It's vastly different. It falls under the same sector, sure, but it could never replace Facebook. Just like Facebook could never replace Twitter. It wouldn't happen.
It's the same thing of like how Reddit's technically a social media, but you wouldn't ever really you wouldn't talk to someone you know on Reddit, would you?
No, and I wouldn't put like a picture of me and my family up on Reddit. Like, I wouldn't necessarily mind doing that on Facebook.
Just put it up on Roast Me, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like fucking Goonies over here, but it's just like that's what I mean. Like, there's different uses for it. It's like they all have their own unique selling points. They all have their own way of doing things. And Facebook is as much as some people here may hate to hear it, it's like its own breed, and it is going to be around for a lot longer than 10 years, in my opinion.
Do you think if anyone's going to be able to compete with Facebook, it will be Wikipedia or will it be someone else?
Not a chance will it be Wikipedia. Not a chance. It might be able to compete with them politically, but not in any other respect. No way.
What makes you so confident?
Because it comes back to what I said, what me and Chris have both agreed on about like who uses Facebook and why they use it and why they're going to continue to use it. Like, let's be completely honest. If my friend came up to me and said like, oh yeah, so there's this thing called WT Social, like you should check it out. Like, sure, I'd check it out and maybe sign up if I could, but then I'm eventually going to see like, okay, this is fun if I want to like read about something, but you know, everyone I want to talk to is all on Facebook. They're all using Facebook, or they're all on WhatsApp or whatever. Like, none of them are here. I can spread the word, sure, but how many you have to consider there's going to be a drop off as well. Like, if you shared that on Facebook, ironically, and then all of your friends saw it, how many of them are actually going to join it? What, maybe
True,
one or two if you're lucky?
Yeah, true, but I think a lot of the conversation we've been having about this topic has been jumping from Facebook to this. Does this not have a place to live in parallel?
Guys, have you heard this new social media? I think it's actually amazing. You guys should check it out. It's way better than Facebook. Your data doesn't get sold, and it has so many unique features that doesn't make me want to get, zucked and spied on.
Thanks for joining us, Dalek. Yeah, welcome, Dalek, to the podcast.
Controversy. Yeah.
Thank you. No, sorry I'm late. But
you might as well take the late. You go for it. You give us a Jimmy Wales spill. You go for it.
Before this is done, though, can you just scroll down to the picture of Mark Zuckerberg?
Yeah, I think there you go. There you go.
How did we ever trust that man of our privacy?
You can see the fucking shutters in his eyes. Look.
He is consuming the water, just like a normal human being.
He's also breathing air and walking on his legs. Very human things.
Right, so sorry about that. Right, so it depends. I think, 200,000 users. That's quite a lot of people.
Not in comparison to Facebook's users, though.
No, obviously not. No, but I think given how many times Facebook has been in the press and it's gotten a lot of kind of bad mouth. That's definitely not helping. Facebook, without doubt, there's still going to be a lot of people on it. But I think if Wikipedia if Wikipedia is Facebook, or social media has a unique thing to kind of draw more and more people there, I mean, it definitely has a chance. Obviously, it's very unlikely that it can be number one or the biggest social media platform, especially since it requires donations as well, I guess, to also run. But anything's possible, and it could, I mean, again, could be a success, both maybe financially and with the amount of users it could bring. But I think only time can tell. Or it could just be another social media that's maybe a little bit niche, and who knows? I think a lot of positive things could come out of it.
Yeah, but will we ever get to a point where it's like, as people tend to have a cycle of apps they go through, your Instagram and Facebook, or your WhatsApp and your Twitter, do you think, what do you call it? I've forgotten the name of this thing now. That's how good the name is. Where are we?
WT Social.
Do you think WT Social has a place in that cycle of apps that people use together? I understand maybe jumping ship, that's one thing, and that's another competition altogether. I mean, do you see this as fitting into people's use of apps and websites?
Potentially. I mean, obviously, probably not at the moment, since it's still kind of a closed platform as far as I'm aware, the last time I checked. But, I think it's possible. But, whether it will become, absolutely huge, I don't know. But, again, 200,000 is quite a lot of people, I would say, and I think as long as they have a unique way of, kind of making people want to go over there, as, privacy is going to be one of them, of course. But I think as long as they have another, a unique feature or some form, that can draw the kind of average user of Facebook along there as well, then, I think that's also a possibility.
All right. Speaking of sorry to interrupt. I'm just going to move the story on a little bit, because Jimmy Wales has been here, a big feature of our podcast so far. So we'll leave Jimmy
staring into your soul for a while.
Yep. I mean, what's a stranger picture? This one or this one? I mean,
they're both on equal ground.
It's a tough one.
No, like I said, Jimmy Wales does look like he's got a fucking shotgun pointed at him. He's like, yeah, okay, yeah, face. He looks dead inside. Look at those eyes.
They're blue, like the ocean.
I'll tell you what that face is. It's like, oh fuck, I wasn't expecting to get this many users that quickly. Shit, I'm in trouble.
I'll tell you what that face is. That's the face of, I knew we shouldn't have called it WT Social. What was I thinking?
Oh, God.
Yeah.
That's funny. All right, speaking of social and Facebook and things alike, we'll go over to this one. Oh no, not that one. Shit, where do I have that one? Screw it, we'll go back to this one. Facebook's only Dutch face checker, fact checker, quits over political ad exemption. Speaking of strange faces, I mean...
Yeah, I know, like, this picture's very flattering, isn't it? He looks fucking... He's having a good time. That hair is something to envy. But
yeah.
Even so, I've heard about this one, and this has been a topic of discussion for me elsewhere. As a little bit of background story, this guy actually moderated an article that he had proven, like, there was something said in there, it was not factual, there was something in there that was fake, and he made the decision to basically remove that, or moderate it, if you will. And Facebook came forward and they said, no, you're not allowed to do that, you have to undo your decision, and he quit right after that.
I'm just going to say this in my desktop background.
Here's the crazy thing. Okay. The craziest thing is he was Facebook's only Dutch fact checker. Like,
yeah.
How's there only one Dutch fact checker with how many Dutch speakers there are?
Fuck knows.
Like how many people was there fact checking English? 3? Like,
The scariest thing for this for me here is it's not the fact that they did this, it's the fact that, you know, we hear a lot of talk about standing up to these big companies and standing up to things like this and saying, look, no, we should have like this neutrality, if you will. But how do we do that when Facebook is willing to silence its own employees in order to, you know, fulfill their view on things? Like, how do we as just everyday people fight against that when literally their own employees are being told to keep quiet as such? So I think it's quite an indication of how bad things can get, really.
Yeah.
Do you think it's? I know we touched on this last podcast, but do you think politics will be the only sort of exemption they're going to stick with, or is there going to be more? Like, don't say anything about, I don't know, particular brand or organization or person.
I think that could be a thing. Like, I think if they, I mean, they are getting away with this. Like, as soon as this dies down and they see that they can get away with doing things like this, as long as they can justify it, I think, yeah, they'll find a way to do it. Like, oh yeah, no, they're one of this person you're talking about or you're trying to moderate is one of our investors, and, you know, it would be a conflict of interest if we let you do this, and, like, we can't do that.
If only we had WT Social to give us a free and open platform. Yeah, I mean,
the weird part of this, though, is that making political stuff exempt is just so strange, because surely that's like the most important. Like, that's the stuff that people lie about, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, people don't post fake news stories like randomly, like about Microsoft or whatever. You know, people post fake political stories to try to persuade other people to vote for who they want. You know,
Very true.
It's literally the only things I can think of that are fake that get posted is political ads, vaccination, anti-vaccination stuff, and flat Earth stuff. So basically, Facebook's saying, "Oh, there's too much workload in the political stuff, so we're just going to focus on the flat Earth deniers and the anti-vax people."
yeah, but even then, you can have, even if you had a bunch of stories that are completely accurate, they can still be used for like a specific agenda or to make people think a certain way. You could have a bunch of real fact-checked stories, but the fact that Facebook is showing them in a particular order might drive, like, I suppose consciousness is the only word I can think of there. Instead of, you don't even need to fake anything if you can bombard somebody with a bunch of stories that show the rival party in a certain light. So I don't think it's going to do much at all anyway, even if they decided all of a sudden to start fact-checking.
No, but it does help.
Yeah, I guess so, but
It doesn't change the whole entire landscape, because you're right. You could post 10 or 15 ads that are correct and completely factual, and it would persuade someone's opinion. But that's, you know, it's still better for them to just fact check political ads than to exempt them.
Yeah,
because we are living at the point now where, you know, political campaigns have been won because a politician's just decided to throw so much bullshit that a scandal can't stick. Like look at Donald Trump, to be honest. He's faced so many scandals that 20 years ago would have forced a politician to resign. But because there's just so many of them coming out, you forget the last scandal by the time the next scandal's happened. You know, there's just so much scandals that you can't pin one on them.
that is true, and it comes back to something I said earlier on. Sure, they can say that they're not allowed to fact check it because it's, you know, it shows there's a chance of bias, right? But in this case, I believe there was actually a thing with the what they moderated was it was proven to be false. Like, there was something in there that was a false claim. It didn't actually, you know, it wasn't factual whatsoever. But they still said, no, you can't do that. So is it, like, sure, there's a bias, but is it better to moderate things, maybe even if there is a slight bias somewhere, supposedly, or is it better to, like, leave lies on an article that everyday people can read and then form opinions on? Like, that, in my opinion, that's just that's dangerous, because you're letting people believe that it's been fact checked and everything in there is true. And let's be honest, most people aren't going to do their own research on Facebook. Let's just be completely honest there.
And they know that. They're well aware of
They
that.
know that, exactly. So, yeah, like, it's ridiculous. Like, they shouldn't say, you can't moderate it. They should say, yeah, moderate it, like, check it for what's true and what isn't. But, like, you know, that's the thing. Like, they can't just leave blatant lies in the articles and say, oh, yeah, no, we're just, like, avoiding conflict of interest or we're avoiding bias. Because you're not avoiding bias. You're, like, literally leaving lies in there. And, you know, your users are then reading it. And they're believing it. They take it at face value and they take your word for it. And then they now think, oh, yeah, great, so this politician's an evil bastard, when realistically they might not be. Fucking hell.
The Zuck.
That's beautiful.
Fuck me, someone didn't press like the right button on him, look. wrong emotion selected.
Not sweating enough.
Okay. Okay, so yeah. Anyway, there's some interesting looking folks in the old fact checking department. That's for sure. Speaking of fact checking, Facebook and all things social media, we've got not that one. This one. So, did you know this was a thing? Facebook portal.
Yes. I mean,
did not.
it's been advertised so
Have you not
many
seen
times.
the Muppets advert, Taylor?
The what?
The Muppets advert.
No.
God, you're lucky.
What
Someone
the hell
tell
is
me
portal
more.
for Facebook from Facebook?
It's so basically it's a camera that is. How do I explain it? Basically, it's just a camera that sits there when you're like cooking or you're in the front room and you want to basically do like essentially like a Skype call, as it were. It's basically just a kind of just a camera to put in the living room or the kitchen. So, you know, either Facebook can spy on you even more, a bit like the Microsoft Connect, or, you know, basically if you can't be bothered to hold your phone or put your phone at a certain angle, you know, in the room, then you can just use that basically. And it can also follow you as well when you're like moving about in the kitchen. And you can also put, as you can see, you know, effects and things on your face for the kids and all that. So
Yeah, so just the
It's
camera
just
with a
like-
direct line to the NSA.
Yeah, basically.
It's basically just Mark Zuckerberg spying on you now in your house. This is it. This is the perfect excuse to spy on you. They've pretended all. Look at it. It's a picture you can have in your house that also has a camera on it.
Yeah,
And
like,
they
listen, you can
connect
make
to
a photo frame out of this, but by the way, there is a camera that's on like, all the
Yeah,
time. Yeah.
Yeah,
But-
all of a sudden you're just going to see Mark Zuckerberg's face
I was
like,
gonna say,
here in the
fucking
picture,
hell.
and he's going
just
to be like,
flashing at times.
let's go, hello,
night.
Facebook user.
Do you want
You
to?
enjoying your experience?
I just want somebody to be using one of these when they're barbecuing some smoked meats and just him have just appeared.
That's just the thing, like, why do people need to pay this money and buy something like this to fucking display pictures on their desk? Like, dude, just buy a photo frame like a normal person. Like,
Yeah.
Then
and like
Mark
all of
Zuckerberg
this,
can't spy on you.
all of this AR shit as well, like the whole, you know, like, oh, look at all these cool filters you can put on your face using this. Like, wow, sick. That's definitely going to make me spend my money, dude. Like, I don't like the idea of having a camera in my house constantly watching me. Like, do I look like I want to be watched? Like, if I had a camera on me right now, I'd be very uncomfortable. Like, I'm hardly in presentable shape, not going to lie. But, and it's like, I've got the Google Home behind me. The mic's always on that. So it's probably listening to all the slanderous things I'm saying. My house is probably going to blow up later. But either way, like,
And get blown up by the satellite.
like, what does this offer that isn't already on the market? Like, we already have iPads and iPhones that can, and Samsungs and fucking whatever the brand is that Samsung makes tablets with. I can't remember what it's called, honestly. But either way, like, what does this offer that those don't?
Nothing. I don't know. It's crazy. It's a crazy product for them to come out with.
And like,
It
the
is
thing
literally just it's just pretty much an iPad that
For
can
old
just use
people.
video.
Yeah, and another thing is that this uses what I personally think is manipulative marketing. Like, it shows you these adverts, and it's all like this happy, lovely stuff. Like, oh yeah, look what you can do for your
Yeah.
kids, and look what you can do with your family. And it's like, well, yeah, great, but like, tell me more. Like, what else? What else is there? Like I don't
There's
have
no
any children.
specifics.
I don't have any children that I can dance around on camera for. Like, not that I would. I think that's shit like that is cringy. But like, you know what I mean? Like, seriously.
What about this one? Do you not have a nan that you want to show you doing cooking for?
Oh yeah, because my nan knows how to work something like this. Yeah. like, come on, like, any person that age does not know how to use one of these. They'd be like, Taylor, how do you? Why can't I see you anymore? Oh, for fuck's sake, man. Like, it's never this flawless. Like, come on.
God, it's not as good as the Muppet advert.
Would you
What
be
is-
saying?
I give it
Would
that.
you be saying the same thing about a device like this if it wasn't Facebook?
Yes, I think devices like this are ridiculous. Like,
Okay.
I know Google did something similar, somewhat. It doesn't quite work the same as this, but it's like, as cool as it looks, it's still like a bit pointless. Like, I can do it with my phone. I don't need to spend another 300 quid getting one of them.
Yeah, it's just redundant.
I
It's
think
just,
this is only good for old people.
I was just
Yeah.
thinking that. Yeah.
maybe. If
Like,
it's
for-
simple to use.
Yeah. For example, if you like, I don't know, if your elderly relative were like lived on their own or something, you could just have this on as like a company thing. So if when they walked in, it would give you an alert, and you can be like,
New generation of life alert.
yeah, they could literally just like speak to someone like a window. You know, I suppose that's
Yeah.
If
As soon
it's
as they
a-
walk into the
Falling.
house, your face just appears and it's like, hello, Nan. I'm watching you, Nan.
Or Zuckerberg keeping an eye on it.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, you're asleep at night, and then, that's when Mark Zuckerberg's face comes on. Just
Yeah.
fucking, you're asleep, and he's watching.
It's just, shh. It's about keeping communities together.
Look, if Mark Zuckerberg could come on and read me like a bedtime story, then fine, I'd buy one of these.
It's about tearing down boundaries.
Oh, God.
And it's also used with WhatsApp as well as Facebook.
Oh, blimey.
So, yeah.
I don't know.
About
it
tearing
seems-
down boundaries.
I agree with you, Chris. It's quite, considering the controversies they've had, to come out with like hey, put a camera and a screen in your home. I mean, you can trust us. I would, I think people would have a different reaction, honestly, if like Microsoft came out with one of these with Skype integrated. I think people would have a different.
They did. The Kinect, loads of people kicked off the Xbox One back in 2013.
Yeah, but your nan's not going to have an Xbox One, are they?
No, but you said if another company did this, people would kick off, and they did.
Sorry, what I meant was like a device that almost looks to be plug and play kind of thing, rather than having to have an account and here and there and everywhere. To make it easy for everyone to use, I guess. Would people be saying the same thing if someone like a communications company came out, not Microsoft, whoever, even someone like Cisco or one of those came out? Would they be saying the same thing? Or is it because, or would they be saying the same thing as we are? Is what I'm trying to say, compared to, it's Facebook, they're going to be spying. It's just interesting dialogue about how people don't trust a company like Facebook, and I don't think they ever will.
Okay, in fairness,
It's because
maybe...
Facebook
of all
does
the
have a
controversy.
reputation of spying.
Yeah, there is, I suppose in that respect, there is going to be somewhat of like almost a bias, but I wouldn't even call it that. It's more of just like a distrust. Like, realistically, like, I wouldn't say it's unreasonable to have doubts about this. No, not in the slightest. Like, I'm surprised something like this is even like taking off the ground after everything that's happened. Like after Cambridge Analytica, for one. Like, are there actually people that are buying this or pre-ordering it? I've never even seen it, so I don't even know if it's out yet. Is it out?
Looks
Yeah,
to
you
be
watched
very-
the advert for
Sure
it
it
now.
is,
Yeah. So like, I mean, you'd think that people would be a bit more suspicious, but no, like, it wouldn't matter. Like all of these other companies, like, it doesn't matter if they've been publicly ridiculed for it. Like, they still have done like this mass data collection, and for all we know, a lot of them are still doing a lot of the shadier stuff in the background, and they just haven't been caught yet. Like, I wouldn't care if this came from Microsoft or from Facebook or from Google or from fucking Twitter, for all I care. Like, I would not want like a camera and a tablet in my house, like, for all I know, watching me. Like, I already have that with my phone, like, and the Google Home. Like, they both listen to me and watch me all the time. So I don't really want one of these, like, mapping out every room in my house. Personally, you know.
Isn't it weird though that like Adam's right in the sense that every single advert that we've seen on this on Adam's screen is basically someone talking to a grandparent. Like it is basically like this device is like, oh yeah, grandparents are stupid. It's like, you know, they can't use any other sort of technology, so we're just going to give them this one device that does basically this one thing, which is video calling.
Yeah, and of course, it's not one device either. They've got 4 different variations, which is just excellent.
Yeah, so here's the total product list. So you've got obviously available in black and white, you know, because they're
very diverse, like very creative.
They've got some sort of rip off like Connect thing here called the Portal TV, which
you obviously connect that to your TV.
Yeah, and
so there's no need for screen.
Portal Mini, which is the mini photo frame type. AR experiences adapted, plus front porting stereo speakers and a rear woofer. Okay. Make calls with WhatsApp and Facebook. Comes with Alexa built in. Interesting. Okay. Portal. So Alexa and this together, that's like Black Mirror right there.
Sure.
I don't know. I agree with you, Taylor, when you said about how stupid is it that you've got like a photo frame with a camera on.
I don't need a rechargeable tablet to display my photos. If I have photos that mean a lot to me, I'll buy a photo frame. So that way, if something went wrong with this device, I wouldn't lose those photos. Simple fucking common sense. Like, can you imagine going into work though and seeing your colleague sat with one of these on his desk, cycling through his family photos? Oh, come on, man.
There it is. It's like the elderly.
Yep.
The elderly, and like there's a guy that's happily like swinging a kid around the room. Look how happy everyone is. Oh, it's so lovely.
To be fair, they're not even like that elderly, but still, it's still like
they'd be miserable without the portal.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Who's even in these like family? Like, look at this video. It's like it starts, and you got like the man who points there, like, "Oh, look, everyone's all together." It's like who like goes, "Oh, it's time to call Nan. Everyone present yourselves."
Yeah, everyone put on your Sunday best. Like we're gonna put your dinner out on the table. Like, oh, like come on, it's just ridiculous. Like, I'm sorry, but if you have a video chat with your grandparents, is the first thing you do run around the room swinging your kid about? Like, no. You sit your kid down in front of the camera and say, "All right, talk to your nan for 20 minutes. Like, I've got dinner to make. I've got work to do." It's like that's what it really is. Like, what family functions like this? And like, there's the granddaddy's like, "Hey, look at that." Like,
I love that. That's the best thing. There, just the way he sort of like points to the camera.
Points, like, "Oh, well,
he's like, oh yeah, lives. That's our family. That is."
Yeah, I've seen that before.
I've got to see it again. Fucking hell.
Hold on, wait for it.
Yeah.
There it is. Yeah, I know that.
Hey, that's the
I had clinical depression before Portal changed my life.
Oh, no.
Now I'm the happiest a man can be.
Because I have the new, beautifully redesigned, incredibly capable photo frame. Oh my god!
Oh my!
How does it say?
When do you think we're going to get to the point where, like, there's a big like news story of like a trial that's gone on, like someone's got murdered, and the only reason they caught the killer was because they had a photo frame with a camera in it in their living room, and the police like got access to the feed.
There he is again. He's too damn happy.
He's chatting to someone else now.
Mate, he looks.
He's showing off that kick-ass sweater.
But, yeah, that's him chatting to his mistress.
That's the guy that stole your bitch, right? He's chatting to his mistress. What the fuck? Let's not forget that.
So, shh, be quiet. She's only upstairs. Look how he stood as well, like arms to his side.
He's a bad bitch.
Let's see.
Oh, what about the specs? Let's have a look at the specs.
Okay, product.
It's a camera and it's a HD screen.
Oh, sick. No, answered all my questions. That's all you had to say, mate.
Tech specs. Here we go.
There we go. Let's see.
The real deal.
All right. So let's zoom right in so we can all have a read. So we got a camera.
12.5 megapixels.
4 microarray, so even if you whisper, it can still hear you. Nice.
Yeah. So as soon as you like exhale silently in your room, it'll pick up.
Alexa lights up. Yeah. Make video comes with. That's not really much in the way of specs, but fair enough. Oh, there we go.
Rotation rotates on stand. That's so creepy to me.
It follows you around the room.
I wonder if it does it like when it's not even turned on, because that'd be the creepiest thing, when you're just walking through your house and the camera's just there, always like turning its head. Like
that would be scary. You know, the whole photo frame gig, like that. You know how you see photos that seem to follow you around the room. This literally would.
Yeah.
just,
That's the hell of a speaker it's got in there. Look at that. It takes up like half the stand. It's like, okay.
If you want to fucking party it up, like as long as you don't use any drugs on camera, like you'll be fine.
Yeah, but like most of the speakers blocked by the portrait view. Like if you look to the left.
Oh, or is that little bottom bit there? Is that literally just the speaker on that one? No, it's the same one. It's the same one. Yeah. Okay. Fuck. Yeah, that is. I mean, surely if it's in that sort of positioning, surely like it would just be like that bit of the speaker that works, maybe. Because wouldn't the speaker kind of fuck with the screen otherwise? Yeah, especially if you're jamming to heavy metal, like wouldn't that just like?
Well, you're when you're jamming with your nan on Facebook portal for heavy metal.
To Pantera.
To Pantera, yeah.
Oh God.
when you present the family in Sunday best to grandmother as you walk it out to AC/DC.
Yeah. Portal's smart camera uses AI to keep everyone in the frame, panning and zooming automatically no matter where the conversation goes. It's so strange. Just going to use the bathroom. Watching. Don't worry, I can come with you. It's fine.
This is it. The next version of this is going to have little reels, isn't it? So it can just follow you.
No, like a drone.
It'll be on a drone, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, God. All right, I think that's a good segue to the next... well, not really a segue, but a good time to move on to the next story. Anyone else got any final thoughts on the Facebook portal?
It's always
it's just bizarre, isn't
Direct line to the NSA.
It is.
It's going to be one of those things that people buy thinking they really need it when really they don't.
I love that man though. We need to get that man in a.
Can we have him as a guest on this podcast?
No. We just need him as the image for this week's podcast.
All
right. Yeah.
All right, it's done. He's going to be in there. No problem. In fact, I'll make it official. Wait.
Oh no. Good old snipping tool. Wow, very old-fashioned.
And then I'm going to Photoshop it after the fact, but hopefully... Come on, obviously it's not going to work now I'm using it.
I paid $100 for this sweater.
There you go. I'll get to that later on. But okay, next up we have Mr. Jony Ive himself leaving Apple. Holy moly. It's been some time, I think it says he joined in 1992. And basically the reason why the phones are shaped the way they are is because of this guy. Thoughts and opinions.
He's probably just retiring. He's probably made so much money, and he's probably getting to that age now. I mean...
At the same time, though, the amount of money he's made, he probably could have retired like 20 years ago.
Oh, yeah, probably.
But, now we're going to have no more revolutionary, powerful design. The best phone we've ever done. None of these like really enthusiastic, kind of creepy announcements will be out anymore. It will just be...
I'm just reading this Wikipedia article here. It says he's announced he would leave Apple after 27 years to start his own design firm called Love From.
Love From, as if it couldn't get any more creepy.
Together with industrial designer Mark Newson.
Day one press release. We just got a wonderful, powerful, revolutionary product. It's like, oh, here we go. That's why we got
more round than ever.
Yeah, it's always that little bit too. Like, hey guys, don't you just love the battery power on the new 6S? And it's just let's not beat around the bush. This guy is like Mr. Apple design, right? So it's a pretty big deal that he's going. So regardless of if you're fans of Apple and the way they do things, you cannot deny that the way their products are designed are, at least in previous years,
they look good.
They look good and probably better than most. However, obviously things are catching up. I understand that, but it's telling of the times, I guess, that he's leaving.
Indeed.
Not only that, but to do his own company. I mean, I wonder if they've made, life more restrictive and difficult, as the years have gone by.
Yeah. Tim Cook, probably not a fan. He's like, we're doing the same thing. And then Johnny probably was like, oh, but Steve let me do this. I don't care. This is my region now.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, I'm sure he's sitting pretty with the money though. So, hey, fair play to him. It'll be interesting to see what they come up with. Maybe they're going to hire the guy from Facebook Portal and have like LCD screens in the back with a camera on, so it can sort of see where you are. I don't know.
If you scroll right down, Adam, there's a lot of comments once again, and this time there's a lot of hate for the guy. Someone said, "Thank God, finally! Thank God, one of the world." Oh no, wait a minute! Thank God, the guys who are obsessed with making everything a flat slab of aluminium has left Apple. It's like there's quite a bit of hate.
Thank God, one of the world's best designers left Apple? ?
Good news for Apple, I guess. Maybe we can finally see Apple embracing some innovative designs now. Oh, dear, dear.
Oh, yeah, definitely with Tim Cook in charge. He really spells out innovation, doesn't he? The man does like a keynote, and it's just like the most cringiest thing you've ever seen. He sort of he gets like a band that used to be popular like in the bloody 90s, like Limp Bizkit. They like sing before him. Then he comes out all like, "Oh yeah, that was cool, wasn't it, guys? Oh yeah, Apple's still hip. We've still got it even with Steve gone. Yeah."
Oh God.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I've always found Apple design to be overly simplistic. Like, wasn't it like, I don't know, how many years ago that they had a Mac with a mouse that only had one button? That was the thing, wasn't it?
Yeah, that is like, it was just the one touchpad, and it had, depending on how many fingers you used and stuff, it has different functions, right? There's no pun in there. I know
the Magic Mouse. The Magic Mouse.
Yeah, that's it.
There was even a meme about it. Like,
I'm not gonna lie, I actually quite like that. I tried it, and I found it quite easy to use. Like, you'd think, based on your experience of being a trackpad donkey over the years, like, you'd think the trackpad would be dog shit, but it wasn't. Like, they actually did a really good job of that, and it didn't have. I rarely ran into like any issues with it, or it always did what I wanted it to. So I can't knock that. That was a good design.
Minimalism just always looks nice, though, doesn't it? It's the best way. Nice, but if you go on a website, it's full of clutter. Except
when it comes to food buffets, minimalism is normally pretty good.
Yeah.
I don't know. Ethiopia hasn't been complaining.
Apple designed a car that only had one pedal.
Yeah, it doesn't come with any wheels because it's like revolutionary, and you have to buy them.
You have to buy the wheels. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. I did read. Someone mentioned about the earpods, and you're sort of seeing a lot. I don't know about you guys in the UK and stuff, but I'm seeing a lot of people wearing the earpods now.
The AirPods.
Even
AirPods.
Sorry, AirPods. Yeah. So that's almost testament to the design, right? The fact that you recognize them straight away. You see it straight away.
Yeah.
You know that it's AirPods, and it's just another move from Apple to be like.
The thing is, though, like, we can't really deny either that with things like that, as long as it's Apple, people will buy it. It doesn't matter how good or bad it is. People still get it and say, "Wow, look at how amazing this is!" Like I saw a thing the other day. Like they've released a little attachment you can put onto the bottom of your iPhone that gives you back the headphone jack and the home button. Like, they're creating problems and selling the solutions.
It's like DLC in real life.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we forget the fact that it's not only the iPhone. It's probably some of the best looking laptops on the market with the MacBook
Pro. Oh, I
Pros.
can't deny that. I can't deny that. The MacBooks look lovely. They are they're slick.
Apple have kind of had this weird thing where they're sort of not just a tech company, but they're sort of like a designer company at the same time.
Yeah.
Like, they kind of like similar to like Burberry or something like that. Where people buy the products just for the brand name as well now, because it's just they've got this sort of background to it that makes it sort of more pleasing. It's like the products are more expensive, but they're more expensive because it's Apple. You're paying for the logo, you're paying for the brand.
Yeah, well, and I mean, coming back to the design, like this guy here, it is Ive, right? That is how you say his surname, just Ive, or is it?
Jony Ive.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So like in the article, it mentions how him and Newsom designed a diamond ring for charity. Like, these guys are. I mean, Apple is probably are some of the best designers out there, like without a doubt. And this diamond ring, it looks pretty nice. I'm looking at it now. But that's what I mean. If they can do things like that, of course their tech's going to be amazing. Like, they are. I think for a long time Apple were like the kings of design in some respects, and now obviously people are starting to catch up a bit. But Apple did do it first. I can't really deny that.
Except with the Mac, with the what was it?
The tablet, because I know Bill Gates tried to unveil one.
No, the trash can Mac Pro that was like, what the hell are we doing here?
Right, yeah.
Overheating.
Yeah. Let's make a circular, tiny, compact device that's our most powerful flagship machine. What could possibly go wrong?
Yeah, it's just they were just really good at like releases. Like when Steve Jobs was alive, like his keynote speeches were just great.
They were.
You know, you would just watch it just to see what he's releasing. He would have this power to it, and it just got ruined when he died. And you know, Tim Cook does it now, and Tim Cook's just a fucking arsehole, isn't he? Really, you know, he's you know.
Well, maybe we wouldn't go that far, but you know,
Steve Jobs is the uncle that is cool. Tim Cook's the uncle is like, oh yeah, look, I can be cool as well. You know,
the way you make him sound, he sounds like the uncle that like disappears from the family for like 15 years, then comes back and tries to bribe everyone with like fancy stuff to win them over.
Except like none of the stuff is like fancy. Like it's stuff that like people like barely liked like a few years back. Like he comes back and he's like, oh yeah, here's a Nickelback CD. Oh, all the kids like Nickelback, don't they?
We've gone ahead. What was that? What was that? Who was the band? Who was the band that got deployed onto everyone's machine? U2. It was U2. Yeah. So it's like.
Oh god, I remember that. I hated the fact I couldn't delete them off my phone. I was like looking at it like, really? U2?
That's what I mean. You can have like some of the best designers in the world working for you, but it's still humans making the decisions.
Like, yeah, their worldview is just like whack. It's like, yeah, U2's still popular, right? Like the kids still like that.
Yeah, it's a damn shame when like the designers are good, but the management is just terrible.
Yeah. Well, there's always the trade-off, isn't there? Like the people who call the shots aren't going to be as sort of in tune as the people who like make the stuff. Like they say, yeah, I want this and that. Like going back to what we spoke about with the guy who kicked off about VR not making enough progress. Like, yeah, it's easy to say, yeah, I want more progress, but you're not necessarily the one who has to do all of that.
The engineers are like, come on, man. I mean...
Yeah, the engineers are like, dude, like we haven't got teleportation yet, all right?
Oh my god!
For some reason, when I hear, this is a bit of off topic, but whenever I hear AirPods, I think of Tide Pods for some reason.
Maybe that's next in their thing. They're gonna have Tide Pod AirPods, you know,
Apple washing.
Limited edition Apple washing machines. Yeah.
Oh god.
Wireless washing machine.
Wireless washing machine. All right, next up.
I can't wait to see Tim Cook's keynote for that.
Oh no,
Tim Cook.
Right, Adam.
I'm gonna move away from the Tim Cook.
He's an arsehole,
Adam. Amazon seeks permission to launch 3,236 internet satellites. Amazon wants the U.S. Federal Communications Commission, otherwise known as the FCC, to give it the go-ahead to launch over 3,000 satellites, with the end goal of establishing a globe-spanning internet network. So eventually you'll be like, hey Alexa, connect me to X, Y, and Z. Obviously that's a joke in bad taste, but still, it's kind of Amazon's attempt at making a global internet using satellites. Jesus, we're in that sort of...
We've entered a new ball game.
We have.
Well, they're a bit late, really, aren't they? Because Elon Musk's like halfway to doing his, isn't he?
Yeah, wasn't Facebook doing the same thing with like planes?
Yeah, but it failed.
Yeah, they were.
apparently.
Yeah, they were doing that. I thought there was like gliders that could stay in the air for ages. I think that was what Facebook were doing.
That sounds very unreliable.
Elon Musk has got about 50% of his satellites already in the sky.
Yeah.
Because I guess it's kind of easy to do when you already have your own space company.
Is this how we start, like, these intergalactic battles? Like, they're just going to be satellites knocking each other out the sky?
There's no laws in space, Taylor.
There isn't. No, the only person who broke laws... Oh, I'm not going to say it, never mind. There was someone who broke a law in space, but it's a joke in bad taste. The first space crime was committed by a certain someone. You can look into that yourself. I'm not saying it.
It was a woman, by the way. She committed financial fraud.
Yeah, that's it.
I don't know why we're keeping that secret there. It's just,
Yeah, no, I didn't want to come off as like some misogynist.
Wait, hold on. Repeat this.
So basically, there was a female astronaut, and she was the first person in space to commit a crime. And what was it? It was fraud.
It was fraud, yeah. I think she pretended to be her wife to look up some personal... pretended to be her ex-wife, I believe, to look up personal details for her.
Ah, damn.
She committed that in space?
Yes.
She was on the International Space Station.
Okay.
Yes, she was the first person to commit a crime in space.
Yeah.
We need the space police now.
Oh, God, don't even go there, because like with these satellites, like, I mean,
One day.
It's a big thing, isn't it? And like, I'm not going to go too much into the conspiracy route, but like, Jesus.
But you are anyway. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, no, I'm going to sound like a complete lunatic.
Do it. Go for it.
I don't
That's
know.
what we're here for.
Is pumping like all of this, let's say, signal out into space like really a good idea? Like we still don't know.
Terrible.
We still don't know what else is out there. Like what?
Not only that, it's getting really, really filled up there in space now. Because obviously there's only like a small part of the atmosphere they can sit in, because to obviously orbit the Earth in the way they do.
Yeah.
And that part of space now is like just nearly filled to the brim.
And that's what I mean. Like, if something went wrong, like I think I said last week about solar flares. Like if we had another solar flare and these all got knocked out the sky, is that one country just going to get fucking pelted by like thousands of satellites? It's like, oh no.
That's a whole different topic, man. Like this whole
wants to see you.
We can't really know how much we can rely on, electricity in general because of these danger from the solar flares.
All I'm saying, solar flares before.
Knocks everything out.
All I'm saying is you can launch 3,236 satellites into space, but you still can't get Disney Plus without a VPN. So there you go. Where are the priorities at?
There's another one for you. You can launch 3,236 satellites into space, but you can't give your employees fair pay. Funny that.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah.
He's going to come under fire for that. Let's not lie. Like someone's going to pull that up.
Or someone like Elon Musk is just going to call him a pedo, and then it will like.
I think you might find that Amazon does pay the living wage.
Yeah, but living wage doesn't mean much nowadays. It is to do with the wages that Amazon workers are up in arms, aren't they? So they protested on Black Friday.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like living wage is a very thin line now. Like living wage is like literally the very bare minimum, and it's like I wouldn't consider it a living wage. Like you have enough to like scrape by, but you don't have enough for everything else. Like if you want to go out with friends, oh sorry mate, but you only have like $50 left out of your paycheck. You can't really do that. It's like you got to take all of that into consideration as well. Like if you have a car to maintain and you've got all these bills to pay, you're renting from someone, you have to pay for water and electricity, then you have to buy all your food, and if you smoke and drink, well that's even more money. Like you can't even enjoy like the little things on a living wage.
If I was Jeff Bezos, I think I'd tell them that if they want their ability to fire 3,236 satellites into space, they should probably work harder. Because Jeff Bezos has found the money to do it. If they pick up a second job, I'm sure they could fire 3,236 internet satellites.
Without a doubt. I mean, we all have a few billion lying around, don't we? So,
yeah,
111 billion.
He's doing this as well, and he's had a hard financial year. He has, because his wife has taken him to the cleaners, and he still can afford to do this.
Well, yeah, he's probably made back most of the money that she took. So, right.
Yeah. Poor Jeff.
However will he live on that small fortune?
Brendan Fraser.
Brendan Fraser
all over again. The money.
Okay, we're going towards a
We're going off topic. I
off
apologise.
topic. We've talked living wage and we've talked to divorce settlement. So we'll move it on slightly towards the
and crime space crime,
and space crime.
We did cover that as well.
And aliens.
Yeah.
No.
Hey, I mean, internet is a good thing in general, and having more people access.
Oh yeah, no.
Don't
like,
really see it as a bad thing, but
no, actually being on topic, in real talk, like the people, there is a comment on this article saying like people in rural areas who can't actually get internet, like this is great for them, and I agree. But there is a lot of positives to be seen in this. It's just like, it's just the whole thing's just a victim of circumstance. So we've just been ripping the piss out of them. But it's like it is.
The negative thing that I can think of though is the spying aspect. It just gets larger.
Yeah, I suppose so. There's always a trade-off with things like this. Any advancement in the technology area always has its good and bad. Like there's no such thing as like the perfect innovation. So like,
just in general, I mean, the amount of advancements that have been made in information technology.
Yeah.
And, when it comes to information, it's all about spying these days.
Yeah, data collection. That's where they make their money.
Yeah.
speaking of, sorry, go ahead.
I said whether or not this is going to be. Yeah, I know. Obviously, I don't see much data collection being the key purpose of this. Like, I'd like to believe that it's like coming from a very pure place, and it's like, yeah, we can bring internet to all of those people who don't have it, and we can help out all of these people in these, even third world countries who they could now have access to like a web of information, and that it could help. Realistically, if it was done right, it could help the world in so many different ways. It's just how it's done.
Internet on Mount Everest.
Yeah, exactly. You can tweet from the top of a mountain. So yeah, there is that trade-off as well. Like, you're enjoying a nice, peaceful fucking meditation session in like some mountain in Asia, and then you got some twat next to you on Twitter. It's like, great, thanks.
Taking a selfie with the monks.
Yeah, with his like phone on loudspeaker as well.
With his Facebook portal.
Yeah, he's like showing off his kids to like their grandparents, like, swinging them around the top of the mountain.
One thing I would say though, with this, what if I'm guessing, I guess especially with something of this nature, what if you need permission from certain? Obviously there's no laws in space, but I think certain countries would probably object to it, with the spying side of things and stuff like that. It would be interesting to see how certain countries would respond, saying, "Actually, no, we don't want satellites above. Get lost."
I don't think I've no knowledge of the way space traffic works, but I'm pretty sure there's a difference between airspace and space, right? So
yes.
Oh, okay.
You can't. I don't think there's like you can't fly over this. It's kind of just.
Yeah, I'm not being funny. If some billionaire makes a decision to fire a satellite off into space, it's not like it's not like your local village in Southern Africa can say, "Oh no, we don't want that." I don't think you got much choice at that point.
True.
Oh dear.
So here's an interesting one that we'll move on to. Cows wearing VR headsets might produce better milk. Just another bonus for VR, Chris. You a fan yet?
Is it still just a what did you call it?
If anything, this just goes and further proves my point. It's a gimmick.
Gimmick. That's it. Is it still a gimmick that you can now get high quality milk from a cow wearing a fucking VR headset? It's so ridiculous looking. Look at it.
Yeah. It's definitely an interesting idea to say the least, but I'm not really sure how it would even be economically viable considering the amount of cows there are.
Yeah,
not even talking about the maintenance cost. The headsets will probably have to be wireless if they're roaming around the fields.
Just
and
get
all that just for a bit more milk.
I imagine they're probably not going around the fields. I imagine that's probably why they have the VR headset, so they can just keep them inside.
Yeah, to be fair, that's kind of cruel though, isn't it? At the same time, though, like even if they did go outside, or even if they were inside, like, and people knew that all these cows had like this whacking great VR headset on, you're going to get someone who breaks in and tries to steal it. Like, there is that.
They're not like getting Oculus Rift though. Like they're getting like some sort of cow VR alternative.
Cow VR.
Like, you know what I mean? They're getting like some special branded, specially made cow VR headset.
It's just like a grass field, but it's a bit cruel as well, isn't it? Like they're indoors, they see like this lush grass and like all this lovely nature. They bend over to have a nice bite of said grass, and they're just chewing on concrete. It's like, all right, sick.
Yeah. And just imagine,
there's not much about the dairy industry that isn't cruel.
Yeah. Okay. Like,
just imagine environmental anarchists decide they want to, stop this, or just someone who screws around. Imagine if they hack into those VR headsets and just replace those fields with burning fields of hell or something.
Yeah, it's like they replace it with an image of a slaughterhouse. It wouldn't exactly be great, but yeah. Either way, real talk.
Well, they just replace it with just replace it with Beat Saber and just watch him produce record amount of, or Roller Coaster Simulator or something. Watch them all be terrified.
Oh man, you wouldn't have any trouble getting milk then, would you? Fucking hell.
Jesus,
but no, really though, the article even says the project subjected cattle to a simulated summer field with colours tuned for the animals' eyes, giving them a decidedly more pleasing landscape than a plain confining farm. So it's cow VR. There's nothing to really be done with it, is there? It's very, very tuned if you're a cow. So you're in luck if you're on a dairy farm, I guess. But
I think it does say in the article they are going to be getting Half-Life Alyx.
Oh, right, fair.
Yeah. I was about to make that joke as well, damn it. All right.
I mean, it's great that it produces better milk, but surely there's another way. Maybe
I don't think it produces. They don't say it produces better milk. They just say it produces a bit more because they're more relaxed.
Oh, right. So
I think there is. I don't really understand the process of that, but I'm pretty sure that if the cow is healthier and less stressed, it produces better milk. I'm pretty sure that's just the basics. But hey, I think it's one of those things. It's mad enough that it might just work, kind of things.
It is, but
but the main thing is the cost.
It's more interesting than practical, and that's it. Honestly, this actually sways me more to Chris's point of view about it being a gimmick. This is sick if it works, but realistically, how applicable is it?
Yeah, but a gimmick is something that has no real place, right? If this can produce better milk without doing anything to the farm except putting a screen around a cow's head and making it think it's in bloody Norway on some open field or something. I mean, is it a gimmick or is it a smart thing?
It's a smart thing, but is it practical?
Yeah, is it cost effective?
I think it probably will be cost effective and practical. I
Really?
think this will work.
Changed your mind, have you?
I still can't get over this picture though. It's
I still think VR is a gimmick when it comes to gaming, but I think this is one of the real life usage that I think we'll see some use out of.
I don't think it. Do you think it's actually that cruel?
I wouldn't call it cruel, but it's at the same time, you could argue that instead of having to do this, you could just find a way to improve the life of the cows on a dairy farm or whatever. There is that, and it. Depending on how expensive this is, that might even be a cheaper option. Make their standards of living, if you will, a little bit nicer.
It's strange.
If it relaxes them, just find ways of naturally relaxing them. I guess that sounds kind of dodgy, actually, but you know what I mean.
It is strange that there must be some boardroom somewhere in Russia where they're what can we do to get more milk? Someone's we could increase the, how good our farm is, maybe put some more green grass in place, make the cows' experience better. And someone else was just there my son's just recently got an Oculus Rift. And I imagine if we maybe buy 5,000 or 6,000 VR headsets and stick them on the cows, we could probably increase productivity that way.
Yeah, how did they come to this conclusion? And really, it's quite interesting in that respect.
Well, it's Russia, so
there are plans for a more comprehensive study as well. Because they're not
by putting them on other animals and seeing,
I don't know. Yeah, I'd love to see a little mini one whacked on a chicken though. That'd be hilarious.
We're about to have
chicken release more eggs.
Yeah, we're about to have some fire bacon. That's all I'm saying. Okay.
Yeah, it's a bit of a weird one, I would say. I
don't really know how to feel about it,
No, I'm a bit 50-50 on this one.
I mean, it's kind of cool, but at the same time, it's kind of cruel that they're just giving them this kind of false reality. And the fact that they're having to do that, put a headset over an animal of all things, it kind of speaks volumes.
Yeah.
I think we might have a contender for thumbnail, though. That's the thing.
To be fair,
You can't beat the sweater guy.
No, that's true. Maybe
The
we can have
swear guy
both.
talking to his mistress is just the best.
Okay. All right. Next up, ransomware payouts averaging around $41,000 per incident. For those of you, I'm pretty sure everyone in this Skype call knows, but for those of you that aren't aware of what ransomware is, it's basically where your machine gets a virus or some malicious software on it that makes you pay money in order to either unlock or get access to your data and things like that. So, have any of you here had some experience with either getting ransomware or know of anyone that has?
No.
Neither, to be perfectly honest. Touch wood.
No?
I think the most famous incident of this has got to be also is that WannaCry
Yeah,
that
WannaCry.
affected the NHS.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's probably I think the everyday person's probably heard of ransomware now, probably just from that news story because it was global when it happened, wasn't it?
Yeah, nobody was
that's
talking
true.
about ransomware before that, but when WannaCry came out, that just blew up.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was everywhere. Just because tons of machines were running, either not good security software or none at all, for that matter, or just Windows XP.
And most of them seem to be part of our National Health Service because obviously that's not important.
Yeah, let's run everything on XP.
Yeah, I mean, it is kind of scary how they're using Windows XP and all these other operating systems connected to the internet still, even though they're not secure operating systems and they're holding probably confidential data or some other form of sensitive sensitive information or tools, as it were.
The problem here, though, is you have people paying out money to fix this, which only makes the issue worse. It's like the number one saying is you don't negotiate with a terrorist because it just makes more. And this is like the issue you have with ransomware now. Is because people are actually paying, ransomware won't go away.
Yeah, so for an example, obviously I won't go into details because I can't really, but one of the customers that I deal with at my workplace, right? They got ransomware on a network device. So yeah, and basically they spent half the day trying to scramble to find a way to convert and get Bitcoin in order to pay it. So people are, as you said, Chris, people are ready to pay it. I just don't think they understand that even if you pay them, you're not going to get it, because that's not how they work. They don't just go, okay, you can have it back. Yeah, they might send you the decryptor, which a lot of them do, but it's going to be, as soon as you pay it, they're like, okay, we know this person's going to pay and they're interested, and that's why they go for like more corporate people, because they know they have the money, and then they'd like double it and go, okay, this is how to decrypt half and things like that, which is what happened in this case. They basically paid a large amount for hopefully access back to the data, and they were told, give us more. But luckily there are insurances in place, so you can get like intellectual property insurance where you can basically protect against this up to like I think it's $10 million. So yeah, it's a huge thing. It's the scariest like malicious thing there is out there in this world of IT for sure.
Yeah, but I think the best way to avoid it is to have preventive measures, just back up your data.
Yeah, that's true. That although you can have all the preventative backups and measures in place, but if you get ransomware, you still have to then restore, and that's downtime and that's damage and da-da-da-da. And it's not always Windows 7 old PC vulnerabilities, because Windows is updating so much and changing things and changing components. Vulnerabilities are almost found on a daily basis, so it's pretty scary.
I guess from a business perspective, yeah, it is a bit more troubling, but if it's your personal data, then obviously just back it up, make sure to make backups.
That's what I'm doing right now, actually.
But then what also the scariest thing, I think, is a lot of this ransomware lays dormant until it's triggered. So you could have all the backups and backups and backups and backups, but you don't know to what point to restore to, because you don't know when you got infected. So it's like, geez, how can you even protect against this?
Well, I guess you should always back up your most important stuff, just in case.
Yeah. Just thought I'd add that just in case anyone had any other experiences, I guess, with the shitstorm that is ransomware, because it's definitely on the rise and probably is the biggest. Out with the Trojans, in with the ransomware, I reckon.
Yeah, definitely. I would say, definitely back up your data 100%. Have multiple backups. On site, off site, if possible, and hopefully, hope for the best, basically, because as you just mentioned, Adam, with the triggers and the timers and all that side of thing, that's also an extremely good point, which I didn't actually think of. So I think obviously, the main issue is that obviously not every person or company is going to have backups, and that's probably one of the main, I would say one of the main issues as well with this. So people end up obviously having to pay a huge sum of money to the person who, who's either wrote it or has either changed it to, go to their Bitcoin address, etc. So, there's that as well. But yeah, it's a difficult one. It's a difficult one because there's so many factors involved. It's like, how do you even squish out this type of thing? But the fact that it's rising is pretty scary. But I think as long as people make their backups and I guess try and use common sense. I mean, it's a bit like the conversation we had the other week with many factors in place. People making mistakes, human error, etc. So it's a tough issue.
Yeah, but just buy an external hard drive, make a specified folder, just in case, like, to avoid getting what Adam said about the timer and the trigger. You have a specified folder with your most important files, and you back that up, then hopefully that should hopefully prevent most of the problems that you'll get if you ever get one of these.
Problem is, the worst thing about these is its first targets are mapped drives and network locations. So the moment you have an external hard drive in your machine, or any drive letters or anything like that, or any network locations, its first port of call is to spread to them. That's how it's just
very malicious.
Yeah,
it's very multi-layered by the sounds of it.
Yeah, and the ones I've seen in the wild, at least, have been like they do it alphabetically, so you can almost see at the point that it got caught, because you can see within. I think there was one that had like finance info in some folder, whatever it was, and it was all of the accounts alphabetically listed, and it stopped on like G. So it goes through like what's the word? One by one on alphabetically and the location that it's set to, and just goes and goes and goes until it's stopped. So it's a bit of a bastard, this thing, or these things. Sorry.
Yeah, that's so well written. That's so well written. I mean, honestly, hats off to the people that kind of are smart enough to figure out and make stuff like this, but. Why?
Because they get cash money, $41,000 per incident. I mean, it's I do appreciate like the thinking and the logic behind it, because it really is unique and very smart. But at the same time, it's like there's always going to be people out there that unfortunately push this stuff into the wild, and that's just human nature. Yeah, I'm curious then. So just go around the table, the virtual one as it is. If your machine right now got crypto locked entirely C drive, what how would that affect you? We'll start with you, Dalek.
Well, if it was right now, I'd be pretty fucked because I'm doing a backup as we speak. So, I'd have to basically knock that out of the out of the park. But Yeah, that would be pretty irritating because then I'd just have to spend the entire day and waste literally the entire day, you know, reinstalling Windows, backing things up.
So what you wouldn't have so what I'm asking there, I guess, really is, would you lose things because do you currently have backups?
Yes, I have older ones, but they're not up to date as of this moment, so I would be a little bit screwed.
And where are those backups stored?
They are stored on an external hard drive.
Is it plugged in?
Well, one of them is currently, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So it would wipe that. Do you have a backup of that?
Yep.
And where's that backing up to?
That's, well, another external hard drive, so...
Not plugged in or plugged in?
Not plugged in.
Cool.
So
yeah. I'm not trying to quiz you. I'm just curious, like, to see, just the impact of these is, sometimes people don't think about the fact that USB keys that are plugged in for your backups are also targeted as number one. What about you, Coot?
Oh, well, if my C drive got encrypted, then it wouldn't be much of a problem because I keep most of my stuff on D. C is my SSD and D is my physical hard drive.
What about D? Or C and D?
Yeah, if D got made, then yeah, I'd be kind of screwed. But the thing is, I do have my main folder. Like I said, I keep it on an external hard drive, and I very rarely plug it in.
But yeah, you can only do so much preventive stuff. Yeah. What about you, Chris and Taylor? Any measures, or just not worry about it?
I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna lie. I don't really have any measures. I have never. I've never actually done backups, and for a computer science student, yeah, that's pretty shit of me. But hey, it's like, I don't know. I've nowadays I tend not to keep too much really important stuff on my main desktop, my main PC. Sorry, I use it for gaming mostly, and that's about it. I have some stuff that I've downloaded, but other than that, all of my important documents, shit I've written and essays and whatever else, all of that's on external drives which aren't plugged in, and I use Google Docs for a lot of the written stuff, so that's all sort of fairly secure there, I like to believe. So the only thing is, the only thing that scares me more about the idea of someone doing all of that is the fact that, the idea of someone going through all of my stuff, that's more worrying to me rather than losing it. Because I can always get most of this stuff I can get back. It's just the fact that there's someone who could go through it. That's what freaks me out.
Yeah, I think obviously I don't know the mind of these people, but I'm pretty sure they don't really care about what it is. It's just that it's encrypted, and normally their targets are kind of like companies rather than individuals. So
yeah.
They don't really do anything, do they? I can't imagine. I imagine it's just a computer program that runs.
Yeah, exactly. It's just
I doubt they're looking for anything. They're just sitting there raking in the bucks, getting that cheddar.
Yeah, I'm not sure how familiar you guys are with the ransomware one, but do you know how it was stopped?
Wasn't there, in the WannaCry one?
Yeah.
There was a kill switch that was found, wasn't it?
Yeah, someone made the actual website that was in the code.
Yeah. All that was needed was to register the domain, and it just completely stopped. But,
and then that guy got arrested.
Yeah, because he had a previous of other sort of cybercrime kind of things.
Yeah.
I think he made some script. Yeah, he made some script that eventually got used for banking software that would be fraudulent. So, yeah, interesting. All right, we'll do the final topic of the evening, morning, wherever you are in the world, which is China makes it a criminal offence to publish deepfakes or fake news without disclosure, mirroring the new California law on political ads. Just another thumbnail contender right there. I mean,
oh my god, yeah. I mean, I think
that's Hillary
Trump
Clinton mixed with Trump, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I think it's good that they're doing this because deepfakes are if they're done properly, they can be quite harmful. I think
terrifying.
Yeah, and obviously anyone can make deepfakes now. I said in the first podcast, there's a subreddit where people share the deepfakes they've made, and that's just it really. It's widely available. A lot of people use it for stuff like they use it sadly for like pornographic stuff. So they put their exes in there or whatever. And or just politicians, whatever it may be. So I think having people disclose when something is false, I don't see anything wrong with that at all. I think it's completely necessary now.
It's very good, very good.
I mean, I know there's been some talk that deepfakes could die out with more and more with like the software we have to prevent it, but at the same time, it could also get a lot more advanced. So
it could get circumvented.
Yeah. Exactly. So having countermeasures to actually say, look, if you're going to make one of these videos, fine, but it's law to disclose it. I think that's going to deter some people. It might not be much in the grand scheme of things, but it's definitely a start.
I would like to add quickly that we've never talked about deep fakes in this podcast.
Have we not?
No. You're thinking about the missing episode.
Ah, right, okay. Well, never mind then.
That's non-canon, that is, what you're
non-canon,
talking about.
My bad.
What missing episode is that?
What missing episode would you be talking about there?
It's the non-canon one.
Yeah, every one of these has been recorded with pure professionalism.
Yeah, there's never been any recording errors, so I don't know what you're on about, mate. Sorry. Sit down.
What I will say on this is I think it's pointless, especially in the world of the internet.
Why?
Because so many people can make deepfakes. You can't really stop it.
Oh yeah, that's my point. Like, you can't stop it, so have something in place so that if people do make them, they at least have to declare that it's fake.
Okay, but how are they going to do that?
What do you mean?
Okay, someone posts a deepfake. What next?
They say it's fake. They clarify that it is a deepfake. It's not real. Like if it's a political video and it is very convincing, like they would have to say, yeah, no, I just made this. This everything that's going on in here isn't real. It's forged.
Okay. What if they don't? Then what?
Well, they've broken the law. And if it gets uncovered that they broke the law, then they're liable, aren't they?
But how would they know? It's the internet, man. No one is, for the most part, going to be liable.
I know what's going to happen. If they get caught, they'll just go over to the new Wikipedia social media and then get
WT social.
WT social. I still can't remember the freaking name.
Let's be fair here, though. You probably are going to get caught in China, and
China for sure.
Yeah, that's the thing I was thinking about this.
You're probably going to get shot for it as well.
It's typical of China to ban something like this because of their mass surveillance and everything.
Yeah,
they don't want no invalid information on their databases.
True.
Yeah.
China, completely different story, but what I'm kind of getting at is the say for example, if this was I guess it goes both ways, but what I was initially saying is if this was to be, for example, in the US or somewhere else, or even in China alone, you can just use a fake name, VPN, and no one would be the wiser, so it's, that's what I'm saying, to a degree it's kind of pointless because there's so many ways you can basically just say, oh, I didn't make this video. I didn't make this.
Yeah, but even if that is the case, there are gonna be people that are deterred from it. It might not stop everyone, but there are still going to be people that see oh shit, so I can actually potentially get in trouble for doing this now. So I think I'll give it a miss this time.
Yeah.
Not everyone's gonna be brave enough, and not everyone's gonna have not everyone's gonna think the same way as you and saying oh yeah, I can get a VPN, I can use a fake name, whatever. Some people will be far too paranoid to take that risk.
And quite rightly.
It gets rid of the people that would do it for fun, sort of, really.
Yeah.
The only people who do it now are the ones who have a targeted reason to do it. Anyone who's I'm just going to muck about deep fakes and post them online, they're going to have to think about now what they're going to do, because obviously there's a serious chance that if they did it without disclosing, they'll get in trouble.
True. I guess that's... Yeah, I can see where you're coming from. with that point now.
Okay, that brings us to a natural end to the third episode of Caught in the Web. Thanks very much, guys, for listening if you've got this far, and thank you to, in no particular order, Chris, Dalek, Taylor, and Coot for joining the conversation. Any closing thoughts, or are you guys ready to start your day? And I'm going to end mine.
I'm ready to start my day. I'm looking forward to working from 2 p.m. till 10 p.m. Really can't wait. It's been fun being here, though.
Cool.
Yeah, it was fun. Even though I'm a bit hungover, I need to go take a shower and yeah.
It was fun.
Yeah, it was good.
fun.
It was pretty good.
Really
Sorry for
nice.
being late again.
That's all right. We got another one done.
We're glad that you got like an extra hour in bed. Don't worry.
Yeah, only had 2 hours of sleep.
Don't worry, Dalek, because remember, this is the first time you've been late, because the last time you were late, that episode wasn't canon.
That episode doesn't even exist, mate. I don't know what you're on about.
Thanks for listening, and I'll see you all next week.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you.